And we are live. Welcome to the Deadline Day extravaganza. This is it. This is what you've been waiting for, and we're going to do it. So it's Deadline Day. We've got information scrolling at the bottom. We're going to be updating you on everything that's happening as you update us in the chat. So what I'm going to ask for now is just basically you tell us what's happening, and we will react to it in real time. We are going to analyze and break down what's been going on throughout the day today. Getting messages that I've started late. Not really late, though, like a minute or two. So we are on time and we are here. And here today, we will have Paul, we will have Tim, we will have Clive, we will have some special guests stopping by, which I will potentially tease throughout the situation here. And this is indeed a situation. So what we're going to do first and foremost is talk about the latest breaking news, because that's the stuff that really matters. We're going to talk Partey Time, and here to do it with me is Paul. You can find him on Twitter at Paz in My Pants. Hello, Paz.
Hello.
Oh, you've already got drink in hand. Drink in hand. All right.
I'm serious about it. I'm doing this one right.
You are serious about it. I will give you that. So it is Deadline Day live here, and the big news right now, Partey Time. So before we talk Guendouzi loan and some of the young kids and things like that, let's talk about Thomas Partey. I think there is a fun way to talk about Thomas Partey happening, and then there's potentially another way. When Clive is on, I am sure it will be nothing but rainbows and unicorns. I want to get your initial reaction to the news that Thomas Partey is, well, let's say probably joining, hopefully joining, maybe joining. I believe he's joining.
I'm very excited about it. There's a lot you can say about the deal and the age profile, but I think he'll be great. And, he can join my Thelma and Louise scenario with Willian and Aubameyang going off their cliff in 3 years' time. But hey, that's 3 years away. I think we're
why worry about the future when we can continue to worry about the now?
Yeah, that's other people's money and problems. It'd never affect us in the transfer market in the future. So why worry about it? But no, look, I think he'll make a big difference. I know you're going to have your Aouar pitch, and I think I was more on board the Aouar pitch, more from an age profile, resale standpoint. I think Partey could be really big for us. We don't know, right? You have all these strong opinions, and then they come to your league, and 6 months later, how long did it take us to work out what we had with Danny Ceballos? Best part of the season. Now, maybe that was two managers or whatever. Now, I had a very strong view as to what he was at the start, and I think what he is now is pretty close to that. Now, I got to compliment you that finally you got the right person on to talk about Partey. I'm the guy who blew our whole Y-Scout
minutes allocation. Let me just explain this. So we subscribe to a scouting service called Y-Scout so that we didn't just have to rely on YouTube. Not that YouTube is bad. We love YouTube. We're on YouTube right now, but we wanted to be able to see all of it. So I said, yes, this is what we'll do. We'll get Y-Scout. We'll all share the account. Everyone on the pod can look at videos so that we can be informed. And like 4 hours into having subscribed, I tried to log in and watch some video, and it's like, you are out of your minutes for the month. And Paul had used them all, which is why you were not invited on the Aouar live stream. So go ahead. Tell me what you saw when you watched Thomas Partey and used up all of our Y-Scout allocation.
So I can tell you I basically used it all on Thomas Partey, even though I was pretty excited about Aouar at the time. So I'm glad I made a good call. I had described him before I watched that as a box-to-box midfielder. And I think he is a bit of that. And, what's a box-to-box? What's a 6? What's an 8? Well, it depends on who your reference players are. I think he tends to sit a bit more than I expected. He tends to, now this could be the Atletico Madrid effect but he's a ball winner. He gets the ball back. He's athletic. He'll stride forward. He'll beat a man. He's exciting. Yes, I do look bloody amazing. So, I mean, I am genuinely excited about him as a player. But box to box, not if you think box to box means running into the box. That's not his gig at all, or even running up to the edge of the box. But he does bestride the midfield like a colossus. So he's going to bring us all that physicality, athleticism, assuming he's brought some of it back with him from Atletico Madrid in his advanced years. And so But I think he'd be one of two, and he may even be one that allows us to play 3 with 2 ahead of him. Not that we bought him as a destroyer, but he could be the guy who sits deeper and allows Danny to get forward a little bit more. Not that we see Danny as an advanced midfielder, but he could push up a bit and cause some havoc a little higher. So you might have a nice balancing effect of Coquelin and Cazorla. No, I don't want to set off all the Coquelin lunatics, but you know what I mean.
You mean me?
Yeah. And Calvin. Oh, sorry, Calvin. He
loves taking shots when he can't answer.
Yeah, he loves it. So it could be that interesting balance. It'll be different, but there could be some of the same dynamic where he allows other players to get forward and express themselves. And when you come to your Aouar topic, why you think that's the most important thing, I think Partey can allow our attackers to reassemble a bit more with the confidence of a screen to do more things attacking wise to mostly compensate for maybe the loss of Aouar. It's kind of the same result by different means.
I do want to address a pretty serious topic that's going off in the comments. Paul is not in his 20s. I am in my 20s. Do I not look like I'm in my 20s? Is that I'm like 21? That's why I don't even have an alcoholic beverage, because I haven't got my new ID yet. Not allowed.
It's the stress. Arsenal has done this to us, and the women.
I do not co-sign to the second part. Okay. If anything, my lovely wife has kept me young and happy and satisfied in ways that are purely appropriate for a live stream video going out to everybody. So,
and that the rest of us can only imagine, and I have several times.
We've got a tip. We got tipped by one of my favorite viewers, Himanshu Taneha, whose name I butcher, but whom I love. And so I want to say thank you, Himanshu. We do love you and appreciate you. So party time. So Paul, let me ask you this. I think this is the thing that is worth debating. It's the thing that, so we wanted Aouar, right? Aouar was really exciting. And I think Aouar, he's 22. He's got a huge upside. We did a scouting video that you were not invited to for patrons. And he really does look like he's got everything we need in that attacking midfield position. He can beat a man. He's elusive. He's 2-footed. He has a final ball. He has a shot. All the things you'd want to be able to shift permanently to a back 4 midfield 3. And that's not to say that we don't need what Partey brings also. But if I had to pick which thing do we need more, I think I'd be inclined to say we need the thing Aouar does a little more than the things Partey can do, right? So then my question is, if we balked at Aouar's price, based on what's reported, a 50 million release clause, and some of the reported wages for Partey are all over the place. I've heard 150K a week. I've heard 275K per week. He is 27, so that means you're giving him a 3-4 year deal into his 30s. So when you factor in Aouar being younger, being in a position that arguably we maybe needed more, and potentially winding up being around the same price, but a guy you'd eventually sell on potentially to recoup something, whereas Partey don't. It's not that I don't want Partey so much. It's that if those were the two choices, and I think at this point you'd have to acknowledge we were in for Aouar. I mean, it's not a secret. It's not speculation. How do you weigh the fact that it seems we've chosen Partey over Aouar, seems, when the prices look close enough that we could have theoretically picked either one and had the one that we needed more, potentially?
Okay, so here's what I think happened. I think Partey is a little bit more what we need. Aouar is a little bit more what we want. We were very clear right from the get-go that Atletico Madrid had no interest in negotiating, let alone selling, right? It wasn't, initially we tested them out as a gambit. Are they saying, oh, you got to pay the release clause? And eventually we realized, no, they were simply telling us to go and F ourselves. So we're like, well, there's no deal there. We can't afford either player, by the way, but we need one of them. So we then decided, okay, we're actually more excited about Aouar, even if he's not quite what we need, and we can get a deal here. It's Lyon. He's playing his games. You know, we almost got him. We didn't have to pay his release clause. We were going for 38, 40, 42, 40. We weren't going for 50 something or other. And I think one plus the wages, right? I think we don't know what Partey's wages are, but they're probably a lot heavier than a 22-year-old because he's right where he wants to be. And I just think once they realized that they were not going to get Aouar at a price they could afford, they said, well, if we're going to get screwed, let's get screwed for Partey, and let's be a little more pragmatic. Let's stop screwing around with all us, and let's pay the release clause. We're paying basically a release clause. Let's pay it. Let's get Partey. He's kind of more fundamental, and there's nothing wrong with making sure your house is secure. And it's not that he's a guy who just sits deep, but he'll give us a lot of that. I mean, he bestrides the midfield like a colossus. I'm not sure I've mentioned that.
Yeah, he does. I would say that, like, the thing that surprised me, Paul, and I want your feedback on this. When I watched Thomas Partey footage, okay, I'm going to get beat up for this. And I know it. Every time I say it, people say I'm an idiot. But to be fair, whatever I say, people say I'm an idiot. So I feel like it's a super consistent kind of experience for me. I watched a lot of video of him. In terms of what he does with the ball, he does a lot of Xhaka stuff. He likes to spray it to the flanks. He likes the long ball over the top. He likes to spin a ball out to the wings. Not as much of it in central spaces, not as much of the short punches forward and the small progressive passes between the lines that I was expecting to see. The other thing is, I think the idea that he is a destroyer is interesting. When I watched him, one thing I noticed is a lot of going to ground to make challenges, a lot of sticking a leg in from weird angles. He's got those long legs, and in a Vieira type way, like, he will put those legs in to try to get the ball. I don't know that he's always super well positioned. Xhaka does it with his arms. He's out of position. He reaches out and grabs. Partey kind of sticks a leg in. I think the thing that's hard also is extrapolating from an Atletico system. In Partey's defense, you could say they are a very defensive system and they play a certain way, and he is constrained by that role. To his credit, you could say the reason he looks defensively sound is that they have a system that really emphasizes that team defending concept. And so I'm curious where you come out on the idea of him adding, is he a huge upgrade on Xhaka, but similar? Is he an incremental upgrade on Xhaka? Am I totally off base in those similarities? I think sometimes we look at players and we size them up by what they look like, but what they look like isn't necessarily who they are. And when I watched him play, it was a little different than what I expected it to be.
I think he's only similar to Xhaka in that he allows us to move away from Xhaka. If you have him towards the base of your midfield, one of two players. I agree. I don't think he's a guy who sits and is a destroyer, but he can do some of that because he brings physicality, cover. What you're not going to not use his ability to screen the back line. So he will do some of that, but he'll do it in partnership with, say, Ceballos. I think that's clearly the best matchup, and allows Ceballos to do some more Ceballos-ing, right? Twist, turn, do things, do a Cazorla, get us going forward. I don't really see that Partey is the kind of cultured left foot of Xhaka, which is the best part of his game. I mean, he does spray it a bit, but then that's Atletico does a lot of countering and does a lot of transitions quickly. We'll do some of that. What I mostly saw with him is that he's physical, quick, gets in, gets the ball, and plays a quick pass, but not a simple pass. It's pretty aggressive. It's kind of a medium range pass. He'll try and spring his team forward quickly, which I think will be quite exciting. He's not, my big disappointment with Torreira, and I'm surprised Arteta didn't get this more out of him, was he was just so goddamn conservative when he got hold of the ball, which makes no sense to me because he's got skills, he's got passes in him. He's played further upfield. He even played further upfield for us, and occasionally looked pretty decent in terms of one or two of the passes he was putting into the box. He had better passes than he used. I think Partey will give us the physical aspects of the cover. He's not as disciplined as Torreira is and would have been, but he's a good quick passer who takes risks. He's hit and miss, but I like that because he's going to take risks to spring us forward. He makes good passes, but I don't know they're Xhaka type passes. I don't think they're that cultured, considered. He'll go for it. He'll basically go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can live with that. Can we set the Partey thing aside just for a second? Is everybody okay with that if we set the Partey thing aside just for a second? Because we have some stuff that we have to handle. And Granted, I didn't prep you on any of this, Paul, so I apologize in advance, but I think
I
it's
can
important.
roll. I can roll with the punches.
You promise? Okay. We have to talk Schadenfreude. We've got to talk about Liverpool and United. This is amazing. I mean, look, I know it's deadline day, but for God's sakes, I wanted to have the 8-2 be a Liverpool fan or the 8-2 be a United fan. We didn't get that, but boy, did we get some fun. So I was torn, right? Because I was torn on celebrating United getting destroyed by Spurs, but the stuff that's come out after. Have you heard the Bruno Fernandes Maguire stuff yet? Oh, yeah, let's get into this. This is fantastic stuff. So apparently Bruno Fernandes basically said that Maguire was a disgrace to the shirt and didn't deserve the armband and had to be held back in the dressing room with Martial because basically he went after Maguire so much. Now, Maguire could obviously just headbutt Bruno Fernandes in the 1987, and that would be the last anybody saw of him. I have to agree that Maguire is quite hilariously not fit to wear the Manchester United shirt, and long may continue.
Would have gone down for a penalty, though.
Well, the wild thing is they got their penalty anyway, right? They got their 30-second penalty, and it still wasn't enough, and they actually lost the penalty battle and the war. Did you have any challenges enjoying United getting smoked, given who it was doing the smoking, or no, it was fine with you?
It took me about 30 seconds to get my head around it, and then I kind of forgot. Every now and then they'd remind me they were Spurs, but mostly I was enjoying a good rogering, and it was brilliant. Why couldn't it have been 8-2? Just why? It would have been so beautiful. No, it was great. It was great. I mean, they were terrible. OGS's elfin look. He was so lost. I mean, you just got to focus on misery.
Yeah. I enjoyed it, and I mean, the only challenge, right? And this is the life of being a fan. First, you're enjoying it, then you're like, oh, but it's Spurs doing it. But then you're enjoying it, but then you're like, what if Ole loses his job? We face United on November 1st. Give me your over/under. I'll set the over/under at 41% that Ole is still in charge when we get to our match with United. Over or under 41% chance of Ole being in charge for our November 1st meeting with United.
Okay, well, help me and the two other idiots who are struggling here. So you think it's more likely he'll be gone? Or less likely?
I'm saying it's 59-41 that he could be gone by then. Yeah.
Yeah. So more likely
that he'll be there or gone. So I'm saying 41% chance he's still there.
Okay. So
the over would mean you think it's more likely he'll still be there. We'll get back to transfers in a minute, by the way, I promise. But we got to celebrate the Schadenfreude.
I think he'll be there. I do. I think they're dug in now. I think I might have gone with your bet had Liverpool not done what Liverpool had done at the same time. Aston Villa saved OGS's ass, basically. So did Liverpool. I think that gives him enough cover that hopefully it gets them past when they can smoothly move to Pochettino and it make any difference for this season. So I think we'll either have OGS for most or all of the season or long enough that they can't recover from it. So it's great. Thank you, Liverpool. Thank you, Aston Villa. It was probably a tactical decision by Liverpool to totally nosedive to keep OGS in his job.
Yeah. All right. I love that. So the Liverpool thing is interesting, right? Because on the one hand, they're probably still going to win the title, unfortunately, we broke them. My feeling is that we are so mighty. Our penalties were so powerful that we broke them. Did you have any? So this is how you measure if you are an Arsenal fan who is capable of being happy in the universe or not. And I am not going to say which I go on. See which way you go. Yeah, by the way, Clive will be joining. Tim will be joining. Andrew from Arseblog will be joining. Scott will probably be joining. I have a lot of people on who are more interesting than the two people who are currently on. But I guess what I would ask you is are you someone who watched that Liverpool game and your thing was that you just laughed hysterically at them? Or are you the kind of miserable bastard who was like, we should have attacked them more in our league game? Which day? Because I have to admit, there was a little bit of me that was like, maybe we should have had more of a go at them. But then I was like, no, that's wrong. You have to laugh at Liverpool.
Well, you got to laugh at Liverpool. I had one or two people coming back at me. Like there was one guy who said Liverpool were there for the taking when we played them. And I'm like, you deluded bastard. But I haven't bothered to argue with them yet, but because I'm like, where do you begin with that? They just got pasted, whatever it was, 7-2. But I have to come back at this guy who had said a while ago, you know, just after the game, they were there for the taking. I'm like, you deluded bastard.
I did see that. By the way, you have what I would call a slightly heavier touch with feedback than I do. I have a slightly lighter touch with the feedback.
I've got range. I've got fuck them. I can do a little bit of, oh yeah, that's a really good point, but perhaps, but mostly I do, you're off your fucking rocker, pal. And like, I just can't quite find the words to portray to him. There were two different teams. There was the team that showed up against Villa without Mane. But that it's not just the one player. It was just they were different. Where was the pressing to protect their back line? I mean, you'd think Aston Villa just invented. They're the first team that said, "Oh, let's try and play some balls early and over the top and up the wings to test Liverpool." This was just a different Liverpool. They were always going to have that one day, and when they fell apart, it was going to be ugly. The thing was that they didn't react. That was the weird thing, that they didn't adjust, that they didn't say, all right, well, let's stop doing this for the second half. That wasn't an option available to us when we played them. But I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it. And yes, our Carabao Cup punctured their balloon. And before you know it, you know, the karma red card against Mane, that was us. We did that. He had that coming. Bastard. Hopefully we actually gave him COVID.
Oh my goodness. Wait, here's the thing. I'm just trying to get through a live stream. I think, like, you know what? I'll have Paul on for about an hour of it and it'll probably be fine. And already it's not even remotely fine. Like, what's happening here?
The Donald Trump of our podcast team.
But also not fine. But moving on as swiftly as possible. What I have up on the screen, by the way, is Arseblog's live blog, Deadline Day live blog. Latest update at 6:19 p.m. local London time is David Ornstein's now reporting that AS Roma will purchase Chris Smalling. So that suggests Socrates might have to look elsewhere for a late move. At this point, it's looking like the Greek might still be an Arsenal player come 11 p.m. Guendouzi will only have 1 year left on his deal at Arsenal by the time he returns from Germany. Unless there is a miracle and both parties agree to an extension next summer, we're likely to lose him either on a free in 22 or 21 for a fraction of what he was worth the year earlier. Oh, well. So with that, oh, well, I guess what I'd ask you is your take on Guendouzi.
Oh, so disappointing. I mean, you would think there is a market for Guendouzi. He is a talent. There's no two ways about it. He's a talent. There's got to be a team out there who... this is a weird market, though. I mean, I'd also expected all sorts of loans and clever deals and last minute. And like, it's mostly things not happening. I mean, teams are desperate. You would to offload, to take on. It's just this market. We knew it was going to be different. I didn't think it was going to be kind of stuff mostly not happening different. I'm amazed we couldn't get somebody of interested in Guendouzi. I know all the reasons why. You can say what you like about Arsenal, about, oh, well, we froze him out, so that hurt his value. But Arsenal also showed the world that he's a really, really good player if you have his head pointed in the right direction. And low risk, low cost compared to many, many other options out there. But it's just a screwed up market.
Yeah, it is. I think, like, so look, this is one of those situations where two things can be true. It can be true that we screwed up the Guendouzi situation, right? That he is a player who has more value than what we will ever be able to extract from him. I mean, it's very rare that a 19-year-old gets 4,000 Premier League minutes and you lose them basically for free. Okay? Yeah. There's almost no way around that. It can also be true that Guendouzi put us in a situation with his behavior that made it next to impossible for us to extract his value, because let's say Guendouzi like walked up to Mikel Arteta and like called him a bunch of names in front of the team and made fun of his mom and did. I'm making stuff up at the extreme, right? You have a situation where Arteta can't be like, oh, it's okay, Guendouzi, sorry, man, like, don't be mad at me. Like, he's got to put his foot down. He chose to put his foot down by freezing him out. Now, could he have been a little more artful? Could he have had him on the bench for some games, played him in a last meaningless league game last season, played him in the League Cup? Like, there are ways we could have maybe concealed the situation, but we did pretty much make it public and brief the press that the guy is a cancer for us in our dressing room and for our culture. And I understand why we had to do that. And yet doing that has created a situation where it will almost be impossible for us to extract value from Guendouzi in terms of what he probably could have brought us. I mean, when a 19-year-old plays 2,000 minutes in a Premier League season, at that point, you probably have a 30 or 40 million pound asset just on that alone. You know, I don't want to get in all the advanced metrics. They're boring, but like very progressive player, a lot of good stats that comp well with some pretty valuable central midfielders. He was on a trajectory where he would have been a valuable asset for us if he didn't actually just wind up being great for us, period. He blew it. I want to be clear about something. I am not blaming the club in the way it was ruined. He blew it. His attitude blew it, and we knew we had this attitude issue coming in, and it reared its head, and it became a problem. And it is what it is. There's not much we can do about it. I'm just saying, like, Paul, is there another way you think it could have been handled where we might have been able to extract more value from the player? Or do you just think it was one of those situations where this player and his attitude were so toxic and we did what we could, and at the end of the day, it's for the best interest of the playing side, but maybe just was never going to be in the best interest of the business side, you know?
All right. So first, yes, there's a way. On the other hand, does anybody think that Arteta isn't a brilliant, inspiring communicator at this point?
Oh, it's clear he's a good communicator. I mean, yeah. I don't know that he's always been on the right side of everything. I think, you know, there's a debate about the wage cut thing we get to another time. But yes, he's a great communicator, no question.
He's super smart. I think his personnel management in terms of his interpersonal skills are just top notch. Mm-hmm. And yet here we are. I think Guendouzi...
Here's a good point, by the way. Luigi Asylum says Partey was in La Liga 2 at Guendouzi's age. It just puts it in perspective, right? Central midfielders don't get 2,000-minute seasons at 18 and 19 years old. Even if you don't rate him super highly, like there was a player in there that had big value. We didn't extract it, you know?
There was. And his strength is his weakness, right? He's always had this attitude. It's why we were able to use him when he was younger. Why he didn't have that, oh, you can play him for a game or two, but you can't keep playing him because he'll take a dip. Well, he didn't take a dip because he always thought he was world class. He always thought he was better than he is, but he's pretty bloody good. So, you know, it's yin and yang. It's both sides of the equation. I think if Arteta couldn't get him to see sense, given all the other people he got to see sense, you can't have standards without somebody not making the cut, most likely, right? And Ozil hasn't made the cut. He did, then he didn't. Guendouzi did, then he didn't. And you, especially when you're a new manager coming in to bring in a new philosophy, a new discipline, a changed way of looking at things, there will be a casualty. And when we look at all the downside of the Guendouzi thing, let us look at the upside of the fact that a lot of players will have some value to us and in the market that didn't before. It's not Arteta's fault that the market has totally tanked to the point we can't even get money for Guendouzi, let alone the other players. You know, we're looking at it in this current summer screwed up market where nobody can get money for anybody unless you hit a release clause, and evaluating the financial impact of Guendouzi when nobody could have seen this market happen. Guendouzi should be getting sold for real money in this market. And other players that suddenly, let's take Mustafi, right? He's injured, and were we really trying to sell him? I'm not sure. But suddenly he has a value he didn't have. All sorts of other players had a value they didn't have because Arteta made them look like proper players, because he drew a line in the sand and said, there has to be some basic level, some commitment, some buy-in. And if you don't make the line, you don't make the line.
Yeah. I mean,
Guendouzi was the casualty.
I get it. And I mean, I think, look, it is possible to to be disappointed with how the Guendouzi situation turned out, to feel that it hurts Arsenal to lose a player of that age and that caliber for next to nothing, and also accept that there weren't a lot of outs, that he didn't give us a lot of outs, and that like at some point you can chase value on a player and hurt the team and still wind up not getting value. So I'm prepared to say it is what it is. Like, I'm prepared to say that. I just don't know that it's good for us long term. I don't know what other option we had. Let's talk this really quick. Have you been keeping up with this? We signed someone or something. Maybe it's not a player. Maybe it's equipment. I don't know.
It's furniture from IKEA.
It's a Rekic and a Muller. What would they be? Well, one of them is Swedish, actually. I do believe
a kitchen tongs and a fold-out bed.
I do have to actually say, Abue27 on the Discord came in with a little help for me regarding Nicolas Duss Muller. We seem to be buying from Malmo for £430,000. This is translated from an interview some months ago where he describes himself as follows: I play with few touches, help the team, good in the air, strong, never lose duels faced away from goal, difficult to take the ball from. I mean, great. That's great. He played a couple of games for the Swedish U19s. He's 194 centimeters tall. And in Bologna, where he was for 1.5 years, they called him Ibra, as he had good technique for being tall. So your guess, the next Andy Carroll or the next Ibrahimovic?
I'm going with Ibrahimovic. That's a lot of centimeters.
It is a lot of centimeters. All the centimeters. And then as far as Rekic, I believe he's a center back. And the good thing there is, from my deduction, we are very short on center backs, especially young center backs who aren't ready to contribute. So it's great that we've added another one. I kid. But Paul, let me ask you a question.
We're great at bringing in young center backs and developing them when they're 18 or so. When
we go to the pearly gates and die, like they aggregate all of our accomplishments in our life to determine whether we go to the good place or the bad place, or none of this, if you believe in none of it. My point in bringing this up is, do you think that Arsenal are attempting to right the wrongs of not having center backs for so many years by having them all now? That we can basically say, we know we didn't address center back in the teens, but in the 20s now we will have every center back, and that will thereby redress the ills of the teens. So we now have Socrates, Mustafi, Mari, Louise, Gabriel, Holding, Chambers, Rekic, there's probably several in the boot of Arteta's car that he's trying to smuggle back into Colney as we speak. Do you feel that we have enough center backs, or should we potentially go out and try to get more center backs? Do we know that you are only allowed to play so many of them at once? Do we perhaps think that if we put them all in front of the goal, we will never concede?
Perhaps. The word mediocrity is washing over me right now. But you did say the word Gabriel. So that's what I took out of that long stream of names. He looks like he might be good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait. Sharon Paris. Oh, gosh. I have butchered that name, and I have to apologize with the tip and appreciate that. So you get your question asked, obviously, because I want to be clear about this.
Tips?
We are whores. That should be evident. Whores, scrolling along the bottom of the screen, sign up for our Patreon and help us with our whoring. What I will say, though, is we will have a Thomas Partey scouting video for patrons coming out this week. You can also watch the Aouar video that we did, and A, blame us for jinxing it, and B, cry a lot, because I will. Who do you guys think the ideal partner for Partey, assuming it's a two-man midfield? Paul, I actually think this is a great question, because something happened at the weekend. I don't know. Do you know we played Sheffield United and won at the weekend? Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I forgot Mavropanos. We also have Mavropanos. There's another guy that we have. And a reference for Exxon Valdez in the mentions, which I'm not going to tell you what that means. If you need to know what it means, tweet at Paul Posner. Okay, wait. So look, I think this is interesting. So we had that moment in the second half. So look, I wanted Aouar more than Partey, but I will admit, in the second half, we switched to a back four, and we had Pepe right and Oba central and Saka left and Willian playing 10. And it was glorious. And there in central midfield, I look and I see Danny Ceballos doing Ceballos stuff, being exciting. And I see Mohamed El-Neni doing Mohamed El-Neni stuff. And it was the first time I thought maybe it's actually the Ceballos partner we should be prioritizing. And so who do you guys think the ideal partner for Partey is? I gotta believe it's a Ceballos Partey midfield. And that could, if we stick with what we saw in that second half against Sheffield United, that could really unlock things for us, right? I mean, that could be what it is. If you give Ceballos a partner who can do some of the stuff he can, so that they can't key on one of them, and you put Willian in between the lines where he can use his, let's say, experience, which is just a fancy word for he's old and he can't move anymore. And then you have Pepe and Saka opposite sides of Oba. Is that the balance? Is that what we should have been striving for all along?
Yep. I think Ceballos is hands down the only answer. I don't think it comes even close. I think I don't see Partey as a guy who just sits. He'll do interesting stuff in midfield. He'll get around, but he obviously gives us a level of coverage. You know, Danny's pretty nippy in their tackles, all that busy stuff, but he's not enough. Nobody else is mobile enough. Partey, from what I have seen, I'm no expert, but I did blow our wise scout account on him, and he's pretty bloody good. I think they'll find a really good balance, and they both played in the Spanish leagues. I don't know if that's important. So anyway, I think they'll find an understanding and work out real good together. So I think that could be great. And the interesting twist from the Sheffield game was how often Willian, once we changed formation, slipped into midfield and was kind of this extra midfielder. You know, we've talked about him being a 10 or a cam. I don't see that full on, but there may be ways to get Pepe and Willian, especially if we drop Lacazette on a regular basis. I mean, I like him and everything, but I don't think he's scaring any opposition players these days. You know, if we can not always have to start Lacazette and we can get Willian dropping into midfield, you start getting interesting things happening within our team. We've got enough attackers. We don't necessarily have a perfect blend of attackers for all sorts of options we might like. But if you had a really good two in midfield with Partey and Ceballos, you could do all sorts of interesting things with the four ahead of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that in principle. I think it's hard, right? I watched all that Aouar video, so I really did get very excited for him. But I think Partey next to Ceballos could be interesting. So Vikram Singh Negi says, I need 4 Cedric mentions from Elliot and 3 inappropriate weird analogies from Paul. You may have joined late, Vikram. You've already exceeded the 3 inappropriate weird analogies from Paul. We've gone well past that. There were inappropriate COVID references, political references, of course the obligatory sexual stuff, Exxon Valdez stuff. I can mention Cedric and will mention Cedric several times, only to point out that the Cedric deal, again, I want to be clear about this. I was not a big fan of the Cedric deal. Do you remember that, Paul? Do you remember me not being a big fan of the Cedric deal?
No,
this is what sucks. This is why you never want to be me. I realize I come across sometimes a little hysterical. I can be a little crazy. I just say what I think. Unvarnished, not always clever, I admit. On the rare occasion I get it right, nobody ever comes back and says, hey, you got that one right. The Cedric one, I got to believe. I feel that I was right. Good question, actually, from Jason Martin here. Will there be an Arteta in the Spotlight coming up? So I want to be clear. In the Spotlight is a show that we do where we feature someone for a full breakdown of their... I'm going to need another drink. A full breakdown of their background, their work prior to coming to the club, their work at the club so far. It's a really nice, fun segment. And to date, every single time we've done it on anyone, they have gone on to be absolutely abominably bad or permanently crocked. We did one on Guendouzi. That worked out great. We did one on Emery, I should point out. We did one on Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and then he went 6 months without being picked again. We did one on Hector Bellerin, who then got a long-term injury. So no, we will never, ever, ever do one on Mikel Arteta. I kid, we probably will do one on Mikel Arteta, and you can blame me in advance for that. So I do apologize.
£4.99 gets you a spotlight on anybody you want, basically.
I said we were whores, but I didn't know we were that cheap. So we covered Rekic and Moeller, which is great. As far as the Partey thing, do you have any hope for Aouar and Partey for that still happening? Let me ask you this. It was rumored. Well, hear me out. It was rumored at one point that we wanted to do both of these deals. Do you think our inability to sell has led to this. And I want to address something. People talk about, we need to spend money. Why don't we spend money? We've actually spent a lot of money in the form of contracts being handed out. Sounds like we're giving Partey a big one. We gave Willian a deal. We gave Cedric a deal. We gave Aubameyang a new deal. It's quite lucrative. Ozil is still here. All evidence to the contrary. So like the fact that we haven't moved anyone on, that we haven't cleared some of the excess wages. I mean, I don't know, is Cola going anywhere? I think still no update on him leaving, and he's on quite a big wedge. So like,
I think I saw Bayer Leverkusen said no.
So yeah, well, this shows how smart they are. Do you think that had we shifted players better, or at all, that we might have been able to execute on both of these deals?
I wouldn't even pretend to be able to do the math, but my gut feel is no, it was never on the cards that we get both, unless the other side's crumbled and we're willing to do deals at ridiculously low prices. But I don't think we seriously thought we were going to get both. Like if you black boxed our situation, I'm shocked we're even doing what we're doing. I mean, we're an absolute mess, and I think that's for the last couple of years. I mean, say what you like about the Crankies, please, but they have spent quite a lot of money. I know they haven't put in any money, but of the money we have, I mean, Pepe, sorry, I didn't say his name right, £72 million Pepe. I mean, we did apparently really go after Dembele, and we're going to spend feckin' shitloads of money on him. I think that was the season before. We've spent a lot of money. So you black box us. I don't know how the numbers work, but they don't work as far as I'm concerned. We as a club are spending more than we earn right now. We are not in the old Wenger spend what you earn model. Sell first, then buy. We're buying and hoping we can sell a few. There's no way we come out even. I think AST, who are no friends to Stan Kroenke, estimate that we're going to lose 150 million pounds sterling over the next 2 years, 2 seasons. This just doesn't add up. On the other hand, I'm not complaining. The Partey deal, I think he'll be really good for us for a few years. I'm just disappointed we're not buying the next Ndombele. If I had the choice between Ndombele and Partey, I think Ndombele is so much the smarter signing. And I know people say, "Oh, blah blah blah." He wasn't that successful last year, but that was under Mourinho. He was 22, now he's 23. He was Partey kind of money, maybe a little more, but they'll get real resale. He's going to be a force. There are no guarantees with Partey. The people who defend the Partey deal are assuming is 100% lock solid to be a success. Now, I think he'll be a success, but I'm not. You can't say that's 100%. So the whole deal, age profile, is he currently exiting prime? There's a whole. But hey, transfer deadline day. We're here to be excited about new signings. Am I excited about Partey? Genuinely, I am, because I'm all about this season coming up. But I know you got to be cold. You got to be cold-blooded when you make your decisions. That's why if you're a director of football, to say, let's not sign somebody for the next season or two. Let's look at our vision over the next few windows. And we've had a lot of these exciting signings for a lot of money, and they've hurt us. They haven't exactly all worked out. And so, but it doesn't mean Partey won't be worth it in the end. He could be. He could be the guy who gets us the 2 or 3 years that makes everything else works around him. He could be. And I'm excited about him.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, if you asked anybody 3 months ago, I think people would have said for this to work out, it had to be both. For this summer to be good, it had to be both. Like, I think it's how people felt a few weeks ago, right? It can't be one. It's got to be both. I think a few things have changed. Chelsea a little bit weak. United are a dumpster fire. Liverpool and City keep losing. And I think giving us a little more confidence that maybe you don't have to be Premier League. But, like, I do think it was Aouar that's what we had to do, right? A player to sit next to Danny, a player to go in front of them to link the midfield to the attack and break lines and create chances and add some goals from midfield, all of which Aouar can do. The fact that it's going to be one of them, it's not the one I think we needed more, and it's not the one that I think was the better purchase. That doesn't mean it's a bad purchase. So I only think the problem is every time you make another move that's very predicated on needing it to work now, because if it doesn't work now, the long-term ramifications are tricky. You're layering risk. You know what I mean, Paul? So think about it, right? We're like, we're going to re-sign Aubameyang. He's in his 30s, but we think it could work out. All right, there's there, but we're comfortable. We're going to get Willian, and he's in his 30s. We need him to stay good for a few years. And then you've layered some more risk there, right? Because that might not work out. And every time we say maybe there's a 20% chance that it doesn't work with Oba being re-signed, and maybe there's a 15% chance Willian doesn't work out, and maybe there's, you know what, a 15% chance that giving 4 years to Cedric is a bad idea, and maybe it doesn't work out with Louise getting a year-long extension, and all of these win now short-term moves stack on top of each other, and now you go 50 million and a couple $100,000 a week for Partey. And I'm not saying he won't work out. He could be great right now, but is it a long-term good move? And so we're stacking risk, and we're front-loading everything and needing to get back in the top four now. And the problem with that is it is a house of cards. If even one of those things doesn't work out, it's a problem. But if a cascading effect happens, that a few of them don't work out, then what do? Who do you shift to raise funds? How do you unwind these decisions? Because you're not going to sell Oba, you're not going to sell Willian, you're not going to sell, unlikely, I won't say you're not going to sell Partey, but you've just spent 50 million, you're putting him on a big wage. 2 years from now when he's 29, pushing 30, like, will someone want to take that wage on? Again, I'm not negative. I think this is a move that makes us better today, but it continues to add incremental risk to very near-term decision-making, and that is challenging. I want to put this on the screen real quick from Vince, not just because Vince gave us $5 and is therefore, again, in the club of people that we live to service and adore, but I just heard Aouar on loan with mandatory option to buy next year. Have you heard this? I have not, Vince, and I'd love to know where you heard it, because I would do such disgusting things to make that true. I mean, the things I would do, all the things. You know why I don't buy, you know, and Daniel, I'm going to get your comment up on the screen in a second. So just because I think that this is, well, Varun says you are being negative. All right, fair enough. I'm not being like, I think the moves are good. I think it makes us better right now. I'm just saying that there is risk. Daniel, I'm going to put this up. Do you realize how many young players we have, Elliot? And if anybody has heard that rumor, by the way, you heard the loan rumor?
No, but I'd love to come back at how many young players we have.
Well, all right. So let me just say this for 1 second, Daniel. Like, yes, we have a lot of young players. A few things. When we talk about age brackets, there's a couple ways we need to think about it, right? There's academy, there's kids. The hit rate on academy players is very, very low. Now, we are fortunate to have a good academy right now, but even if you think our academy is good, is Nelson going to make it? Is Nketiah going to make it? Is Maitland-Niles going to make it? And by make it, I mean, like, really make us better and be a regular starter. I think they can be useful, but they're not pushing us on, right, to top 4, to top 2, to top 1, to the Champions League and beyond. Saka looks like he could get there. There's an academy kid that I genuinely think could make it. Your academy isn't a plan. You can't say, oh, you know what? We'll just bring our academy through and in 3 years we'll play all of them, because they are low hit rate. I'm talking about the kind of buys that we've seen at places like Liverpool, right? 22, 23, 24. Pepe age was good. Aouar age is good. Gabriel age is on the young side, but still really good. It's not that I don't think we have young players. I think that we have some very young players, that the chance that they make it is still unsure. And then we have very top and tail situation, right, Paul? We have these older players that we have a lot of wages tied up in and long-term commitments to, and then these very young players who we're kind of hoping make it. And we don't have as much in that pre-prime bracket where they can kind of develop.
It's a barbell problem.
It's a barbell problem. Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Fire away, please.
In the middle is where we're lacking. Now, it's got a little better. You got Tierney creeping up there. You got, Gabriel's young, but I mean, how far can you get carried away on Gabriel after a couple of games, right? We were there with Holding and a couple of Barbell Club. That could be a nightclub.
I want to be clear about something, by the way, Vince. We did mention you, but also, where's this rumor coming from? I got to stop you. If there is a rumor that we are loaning Aouar with an obligation to buy, please let me know.
Got to get this on the screen. A rumor.
Go ahead. Keep talking about the kids.
Yeah. So, but most of our youth is not in the middle where Ted Knutson was really interesting. I was fascinated by what he said. I mean, this guy has skin in the game. This is how he makes his living.
Sorry. Keep going. Ignore me.
Jesus Christ. Oh, what was that? Austin Powers. You're on a rotating bloody fur-lined bed of the. Oh, stop it, please. I'm only a man with a man's emotions.
All right, just go on. Me. Keep going. Don't derail. Come on.
I have no idea what I was saying. Yeah, so in the middle, you got Bellerin, who's now getting on in years, weirdly. No, he's not. He's right in the center of prime. Ted Knutson, who makes his living by this stuff, I was kind of freaked out by how narrow his window for prime is. It was. Do you remember what it was, Elliot? It was like
it was like 23 to 25 or 23 to 25.
I think it was 24 to 26, and I expected 23 to 28. But if you're a Brentford, if you're a club who's in this business of bringing in talent and sending it on, your window is 24 to 26, maybe 23 to 27. 23 to 28 max. That's your window of prime, and it's really more like 24 to 26-ish. That's pure prime. So where we're at, because
fair,
we're not
by the way, Luke asking me to never do the sexy clawing at the camera again. That wasn't very sexy.
No.
Can we turn Elliot's side of the screen black? I will pay money for that. Let's see it, Robo. You pay money, I will turn my side of the screen black. There you go. I will black out my side of the screen. I'll even mute my mic for the right appropriate amount of money. Yeah.
There's actually, for all the people somewhat traumatized by this, a self-help group that meets on a Wednesday, recover from this shit that Elliot does to us when he scars our mentality. So like that middle, the bar part of the barbell is narrow. It's not very wide. Mm-hmm. And we have a few players creeping into it at the moment. It's maybe not as terrible as I sometimes think it is and portray it, but we got way too much of the young guys who, as Elliot says, probably don't make it because that's just life. Saka will. Almost certainly Martinelli will. Nobody else is guaranteed to make it, I don't think. Gabriel, you could argue about where he looks like he's going to make it. Tierney is going to make it. So we have something there. It's not terrible, but we've way too many people on the top end. I love the logic, Elliot. I'm going to use your name here, Elliot. Where
you can call me Elliot. That is actually my name. I do look like a park squirrel. I will confess to that.
It could catch on. People use this logic at the time all the time. Hey, look, we bought Aubameyang and 5 others under this ridiculous scenario. So it makes sense that we buy the next guy, in this case, Partey, because Aubameyang's really good today and in the past. And it's that's just dangerous.
Quick question here. I think this is something we haven't touched on yet, and I think it's a good one to get with. Will Saliba make it? It's funny. I am in a really great position here. Oh. I am very sanguine about the Saliba loan idea, and I am fine with it. I don't think anything's been announced, by the way. Has anything been announced with Saliba? If you've heard anything about Saliba loan, let us know. I think there's still time if he's going to go down the leagues, which hopefully he won't. That would be bad. But, Paul, I'm actually pretty sanguine about loaning him. As Giant Gunner Matt has pointed out a lot, teenagers rarely play in the Premier League at center back. There's very, very few center back minutes that have gone to teenagers down the years. And he lost his mother tragically. I can't imagine what his acclimation must be like right now. I feel for him and what he's going through. And he's at an age where I think it's difficult to expect him to have an impact at that position. It's disappointing because we wanted him to come in and be this colossus. And he may still be. That may very well still be. But he's clearly not there yet. And he needs to play. And so, I mean, you were more concerned about the loan than I was. You want to talk about it?
It's not so much about the player as about what the hell were we doing? I mean, you can't plan for his personal difficulties in his private life, but I was doing my praying mantis.
Sexy praying mantis.
But the idea that we would loan him to Fulham means he could stay in England. I mean, I guess he needs to play somewhere else. Maybe his head ain't right. I don't know that that's the trauma you want to inflict on a young man. Let's send him to a club who can't defend for a year, because that'll be good for him. So hopefully we do something better. I mean, send him back to Saint Etienne makes more sense sense to me because they understand him. And he definitely play there. So that makes a whole lot of sense. But to have bought a guy for a lot of money at a young age, and he then spends 2 years on loan, I mean, oh dear God, what have we done with our money? Could we have used the 28 million or whatever it was a different way? I think we could. Look at it another way. If Arteta had 28 million and could go back in time, would he buy Saliba right now, or would he do something else? Bushmills is the answer to that.
Bushmills, yeah, there you go. Look, I think that a club has to be thoughtful about the present and the future, and that is a hard needle to thread. If you are too focused on moves that are good for the now, you will wind up maybe being better now, but almost certainly not being able to then build on it. Like, let's say we get better this season, but we've so prioritized the present that we've sacrificed the future, and then we can't build on that. What good was the success now if we can't build on it? And by success, I mean getting back to the top four. Obviously, if you win a title, who cares? It was all worth it. But like, you need to be able to do both, and that's a tough needle to thread. And I think we have done some moves that have made us better in the short term, and we've done some moves that I think were designed to make us better in the long term. Martinelli, smart move. Guendouzi was a great move. That it didn't pan out is not bad process, it's bad outcome.
Can I argue on that, Elliot, a little bit on Guendouzi? I mean, we got our money's worth. We paid bugger all for him. We played the bejesus out of him.
Yeah, but that's when you give 4,000 minutes to a teenager while you're sliding down the table, your end goal is we built someone for the future who will then go off and be a £100 million player, not we lose them nearly for nothing.
Sure. But we didn't just play him to invest in him. We played him because he was the best player at the time.
Okay, well, setting that aside, because that's a different debate, right? It's neither here nor there. What I would say is that, like, it is not fair to say that the club has just prioritized the present, because with the Guendouzi move, with the Martinelli move, and with the Saliba move, there has been a clear emphasis on preparation for the future. We have improved our academy, and we see players coming through that way. I just think where we've missed out is, and the Pepe move, very expensive, and we know why that's the case, and thanks, Raul, miss you, really want to run to you and all that stuff. But like, I think we've done some good stuff. The funny thing is, it is really just a cluster of a small number of short-term moves that have me worried. The Partey move definitely makes us better right now. I think whether it makes us a lot better or a bit better is what we'll see. Whether it's something that can carry us forward in time is questionable, and that's why I thought the Aouar move was better. I think we needed that position more, and I thought long-term was better. But either way, I'm excited that we're doing something, because otherwise this would be a particularly boring live stream. So, Paul, your time is coming to an end on the stream. Clive is going to be coming on.
Yeah.
Although if he doesn't message me back on WhatsApp, then you don't know. I'm going to throw Yemi's comment up here. I could listen to you guys all day long. You guys are awesome. And listening to you both talk always brightens my day. Grease to your elbows, AVP. Thank you so much, Yemi. Appreciate it. We love you too. And I mean, the chat keeps us going. I'm going to be here for this many hours, I think, is what it's currently lined up.
4 stubby fingers.
Yeah, 4 stubby fingers. They are stubby and old looking. But we still have Andrew from Arseblog coming on. We still have Clive coming on. We still have Tim Stillman coming on. We may have Scott coming on if he's available. And James from Gunnerblog might stop by as well. So still plenty to talk about. Let's check in with... All right, I got to... Partey, Oben, Luis, keep us until the younger ones transit over. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Let's do this. Let's take this banner off the screen and throw this up on the screen. We'll go to the Arseblog Live blog real quick. There we go. And the latest via Sports Witness, a rather odd update saying we have refused to loan Socrates to PSG.
Fuck them. We're going to take them.
Is this revenge for their Bellerin approach? Do we want to save Socrates from Neymar? Various reports say Thomas Partey's on his way to London. So as we start to wrap up here, and get Clive ready in the wings, I mean, let's do this. Let's say nothing else happens. Gwen gets loaned. Saliba, let's say we find a loan for him, even if it's down the table. We bring in Willian. We bring in Gabriel. Was that this window? God, I've got on my... Yep. Gabriel, Willian,
Cedric, Mari.
said, well, yeah, no, those are previous. Gabriel, Willian, and Partey with really not many outgoings, to be fair. Give me a letter grade, American-style letter grade for the window on that basis.
I don't think you can grade this window today till we see all that gets done, because it's such a screw up. I mean, weird shit's happening. And I think it'll take a little time, a little distance to work out what this window was. I think if we get Partey, I think it'll be really good for next season and the season after. And given the assets we have in the club, I do think he might be the better bet for the other assets we have in the club than Aouar would have been. I hear what you say on Aouar, but I think Partey allows the other players that are there to go play, and to Arteta to find a balance going forward. So, I mean, if we get Partey, don't like the deal, don't like the age profile, but for the next couple of years, maybe it's the right thing to do. Us spreadsheet weenies, I occasionally join them. Don't like this deal. Yeah. But maybe for the next couple of years, maybe given the market, maybe given the options, maybe given the fact that you kind of know who this player is, if we've done our job right, it's the right move. And I mean, I don't give it a high grade because we should be bringing in some quality from. Here's where I think we've missed out.
Just pick a grade, for God's sakes, man. You're never scared to share your opinion before. What the hell's holding you back? KSE rarely funds by FFP suspended. Why not fund a few millions? Clive is in the wings waiting. Too poor, financial prudence, sustainable, not to set precedents. I think this is an important point, Paul, as you think of a letter grade. I do think with FFP suspended, if you've got money, now's the time to use it to really push past your competition, and you see flaws in the competition. Maybe pushing the boat out for Aouar and Partey. I know Stan only has a couple billion and he doesn't want it to go down to like 1.995 billion. God forbid that should happen. So, maybe just something to consider there. I do get it. Paul, before we let you go, because we are about to let you go, give me the letter grade.
C. I'm not going. I'm sticking around. Clive can talk. I'll listen. I'm not going.
You're going to stay on the live stream?
Yeah.
Even though I only have room for two.
Oh, okay.
Well, here we go.
Only two at a time.
Well, the problem is I got the branding up. I got to take the branding. You're making me do all kinds of things that are out of my comfort zone. And then I got to hope that my internet holds up. That's always an issue. Hello, Clive.
I got nowhere else to go.
Welcome to the stream. How are you? Clive's on Twitter at ClivePAFC. Hello, Clive. Oh, he's got to unmute himself. Yep.
Hello.
Yep, there you are. Hey, buddy. How are you?
Not bad. How are you?
You ready to join the fun? Say hi to all the people.
Hello, people.
We want Clive. We want Clive. Oh gosh, I love Clive. There he is. I love Clive. Hello, Clive. Oh wait, we have. I'm gonna put it up just for you. Oh, it's sexy. Clive is here. Let's see. Hello. Oh wait, keep pause. No, I'm not keeping you pause. I'm sending you. Oh, where's the Sancerre? Clive, where's the Sancerre? Get your Sancerre out.
I was going to go and get something, but I thought, you know what?
Get your Sancerre out.
No. I've got a nice little bottle of Duval.
Do you even Sancerre? Paul, say goodbye.
See you later, mate.
Say goodbye. Say goodbye. Say goodbye.
No,
just say goodbye.
I don't want to go.
You can come back later. Say goodbye. You got nothing else. Watch the live stream and comment. Get in the comments, man.
That's what I do, Paul. I watch you guys. I was on the comments earlier.
Bye, Clivey. Love you, buddy. Kick.
See you later, mate.
Kick. He's gone. Kicked him out. Literally kicked Paul off his own live stream. Welcome to the Deadline Day live stream. Clive, how are you doing this fine evening transfer deadline day, buddy?
Yeah, I'm all right. Had a decent day at work, and now I'm getting my brains onto football. And I'm loving the fact that you're gutted about this Partey signing. I'm not gutted.
You know what? You can put a lot of things in my mouth, but words are not some of them. So I want to understand. Well, let's do it. Let's get to it. Come on, everybody ask the questions that need to be asked. Paul was better than this banner. Look, the reason I have kicked Paul is not to get the banner up there. Oh, come on. Look at all of the incredible artistry that I put into that. But pause. I don't have the best internet, even though I have had like 30 people come to the house and promise they'd fix it. So trying to have 3 people on the stream, I think would have just ruined it for everybody. Goodbye, Paul. You are the weakest link. It did have a little bit of a feeling of the weakest link, but we do love Paul. Clive has Barry White's voice. I think we would say Barry White had Clive's voice. Clive, the Wolverine.
I remember
voice.
Barry White. So there you go.
Yes, the man has arrived. All right. So here we go. Why don't you give me all the reasons why you love Thomas Partey?
It comes back to what
the
I was
logo
saying
is the Emirates, Derek. Good call. That's exactly right. Yep, go ahead.
It comes back to what I was saying a little while ago. I think we need to change our thoughts about midfield. You know my views. Midfield's becoming one of 2 areas, right? You have the base of your team, and you have the higher end of your team. And your midfielders now are your creative wide men, and they roll into midfield. And the game is all about how you protect and progress from the base of the team and how you hit those areas, right? So remember when I gave you that little speech about 2 months ago? Midfield is changing. Box to boxes are over, mate. Box to boxes are over. And I think the ability to traverse up and down midfield is just wasted energy. You traverse in wide areas. You don't lose the ball in the center of the pitch. That's too high risk. So you progress in wide areas and you progress up the pitch. So you would do it by connecting with a dribble, coming out the press and passing quickly to forwards that roll off into midfield areas from the front. Then you turn around and then you add the ball to creative runners, like Bellerin showed at the weekend. Creative running, on the move, third man runs, run through lines. That's what football is now. It's not about standing in number 10 in between the lines. Wingers can do that. Pepe can do that. Aubameyang can do that. Lacazette can do that. Saka can do that. Smith Rowe can do that when he comes back. Willett can do that. It's all about how you progress it and what you can do when you get there. Willian can do that as well. So I always felt, if you look at our midfield and you look at the base of our midfield, we had 4 base midfielders in Xhaka, Ceballos, Guendouzi, Torreira. 2 of those midfielders are gonna go. So we brought back in El Neni. We was always going to add another base midfielder, in my opinion. And I was hoping it was going to be Partey or maybe somebody else younger, because I did listen to your voice in my ears, Elliot, about the age profile, etc. You're not stupid, mate.
It is sonorous, I will say.
You are bang on. And basically, but I thought, you know what? This is football. And the way I look at it is, we all like to say we're patient. We all like to say we're patient. But I remember how I felt after Brighton away. And I wasn't patient, was I? I was angry. I was angry at our instability, our immaturity, how we blew that game. And we need to be serious again, and Partey's serious. And when we turn up with him off the coach at Old Trafford and places like that, people are going to say, okay, we got it all on here. We got something to stop. So that's what football's all about. So that's it for me, mate.
Well, Clive, okay, so then look, let's forget the business side of it. Paul and I talked that to death. What's more interesting now is if he's coming, he's coming. Like the one thing I want to say is, look, I know I get up my own ass because I'm quite flexible, but about all of this business, is it long-term? Can we sell him? What's his value? What's his price? What's it? But what really matters now, he's here. He's our player, or he will be, presumably. And that's the thing that matters. So what we care about now is how we're going to make use of that. So, Clive, I think this question is key. If Partey comes, who makes way in the starting 11? We saw a little hint in that brief period where we played the back 4 against Sheffield United and scored our 2 goals. Pepe on the right, Oba on the through the middle, Saka left. We had Tierney as a left back. We had a midfield of Ceballos and El Neni with Willian just in front. I don't think Ceballos and El Neni is anybody's dream double pivot, but is Ceballos and Partey the solution that unlocks this as the regular system? So who makes way in the starting 11? And do you think that little glimmer from the Sheffield United game is the path forward just with Partey for El Neni?
I do. And I think the way he used El Neni in this game, none of us saw it coming. I mean, this guy, Arteta's pretty smart, isn't he? Because how he used a player in El Neni who we all thought was like a dead body, right? He's brought him back. He's looking really quite good, and he used him to basically give Bellerin his best game of the season, because he sat in behind Bellerin and said, "Go on then, mate. You want to be a front-footed fullback. You want to get on the run. You like emptying your hole. I'm going to be here behind you, underlapping you, underpinning you. You go and do what you need to do. My other secondary role is I'm going to make sure I can stop David Luiz having heart attacks, because when he's isolated in wide spaces, he feels desperate. He has to grab people, has to get hold of people, and that's when he gets sent off. So by Elneny being there, he becomes a comfort blanket for Bellerin and becomes a comfort blanket for David Luiz. Now, I'm not saying we're going to spend 45 million quid to put Thomas Partey in that role, but you can see the scenario when we build up from the back and one of our centre mids drops in, just like we used Xhaka last year. We can drop in on the right side. Another reason why I like Partey is I did see him play for Atletico Madrid at the Emirates many moons ago in the Europa League. And funny enough, they had their right back sent off. And he went to right back. And so for me, he was always a right-sided centre mid. We've got a £72 million pending superstar that we can't connect to in a timely manner. We can't drive and commit people to allow him to receive the ball in isolation. We have people who want to pass nice and gently and slow. We're not quick enough to get to him. And I think this is going to unlock our right-hand side, and I'm all for that.
I think we have to talk about something also important here. The way we have absolutely taken the piss out of Atletico Madrid, because apparently we have deposited the release. I got to put this back up on the screen here. Someone named Arsenal Vision. Do you guys think that we will invest in a younger profile if we get ourselves back in the CL? I mean, I guess, maybe. Who knows? But I got to put this on the screen because this is great shit. Here we go. From Charles Watts, La Liga haven't, and by the way, this is Arseblog's live blog. La Liga have informed Atletico that Arsenal have met Partey's release clause. Neither the player or Arsenal have communicated this with Atletico. How have we been able to get away with this? ESPN's Alex Kirkland explains. Partey. A reminder how release clauses work in Spain. The player's lawyers pay the clause at La Liga HQ. La Liga process and approve it, release the player's registration, pass the fee on to the club. Hence, there's no need to even talk to Atletico. We didn't even tell them. We're taking your mans. We're taking your mans. We're not even going to ask you about it. We're going to give someone else the money. We're going to leave the money on the dresser. You can pick it up when we're ready. The player didn't talk to the club. We didn't talk to the club. Clive, if football is purely just based on a culture of constant trolling, then Arsenal come away the clear winners of this deadline, haven't we?
Yeah, I did read somewhere. Obviously, Twitter is the Bible, right? I just read somewhere that Simeone is really angry because he told Torreira he'll be playing with Partey. And so that looks like it's not going to happen. Whereas I thought, and I may still be right, I thought there was some sort of deal in the background not to leave Atletico without a replacement. We send somebody over, and then basically we pay the full money. Who knows what's happened? But Torreira's there, and hopefully we've got our man. And I think this has been in the works for weeks and weeks. And there was always a little few rumours about Arsenal would do this on the last day. But I didn't actually expect it. Actually, went a bit quiet the weekend, didn't it? And but suddenly today everything looks rosy.
Yeah, it sure does. So I think this is an interesting point from Andrew Palin. Partey enables a back four sooner than Aouar. So again, I'm on record that I loved Aouar. We did the scouting video of Clive, and I want to get you on record here on this live stream for patrons later this week. Will we do a Partey scouting video? Yep,
I'm up for that. This is a player that I've really, Elliot, I've really liked for a long time. In football, you have to realize, you heard me use the word enablers before, right? So this sort of player enables us to do things, enables us to overload in higher areas. It gives people confidence and they can take risks with their running and their creative running. When you look behind you, you see somebody that can protect, but also what I like about him more than anything is not just his, okay, you look at him, you think, 6 foot guy, really strong, quite powerful, fairly quick. But what I like about him is when you give him the ball, he knows he can get out of it. He can get out of pressure. When he plays for Ghana, he actually plays number 10. He's one of their most technical players. And I think we've misread the player slightly just because of his physical profile and what we deem to be a certain player with that physical profile and how he looks. To me, he's very close to Vieira, and Vieira was never really the DM per se. He was the CM that went in and engaged, took the ball off people and drove. And when you have that transition ability, that's key. Vieira was always the guy you can give it to with 2 men around him. Bang, out of the pressure. We're off to Bergkamp, off to Henry, off to Perez. We're off to the races. We've never had that ability. So football comes in 3 phases. It's on the ball, off the ball, and transition. Transition is the area that you really want. That's what people are really searching for, because that's the time when you're least organized. That's when the time there's more spaces. We do not have midfielders that can provoke transitions by engaging the man on the ball. Danny Ceballos is our best tackling midfielder, and we all know that he's 3'3", soaking wet. He does it with endeavour and passion, but it's not his physical profile. We've got someone that can actually do it and create the ability for us to expand really quickly when we win it. And we've got a couple of players in Pepe and Aubameyang that not bad breaking into free space, right? So I do think this is an enabling signing. I've always felt this is a signing, if we could get it, I know it's expensive, but I think it could unlock the team. I really believe that.
Yeah. Look, I think the interesting point, Clive, is that, and you know this because we chatted about this on a podcast that we do called the I don't know. It'll come to me. The point is, it was the first. So I wanted Aouar more than Partey.
Why did you want him more? Why did you want him more?
It's a combination of factors. First of all, in terms of what he can be, I'm a better player than Partey, full stop. But I think
why would you say that? Seriously, why would you say that?
Well, because I like players in the attacking third as opposed to players in the middle third. I mean, let's be honest. I'm an Arsene Wenger guy. I mean, I started following Arsenal in the late '90s. That's why. So,
exactly.
But like it's not that I don't like. Let's be clear, right? I like Aubameyang more than I like Pepe. I like them both. I just like Aubameyang more than Pepe, right? Like you can like Henry more than Pires. It doesn't mean you hate Pires, right? Like I like Aouar because I like the two-footedness, the little punch passes forward, the ability to shoot and score from the edge of the box, the ability to get in down the flank or in central spaces and create chances, the ability to split defenses with through balls on the ground. I like Partey's ability to play over the top. I like his ability to spray the long balls. I think there's a little Xhaka in the setting that side. I like Partey. What I would say though is watching Willian take up that role in front of a 2 and seeing that he was brilliant at it, but that he can kind of get it done. Pepe, did you notice really central at times in that period as well and took up some of those positions? Saka and Willian exchanged roles at times, and Willian went out wide and Saka can come in. I think we have ways we can fill that space between field and attack, whether it's or Saka might be the one who really unlocks it. But watching that and seeing Ceballos really taking the game by the scruff of the neck, and El Neni is just kind of a passenger. He's sound, but that's it.
Continuity. He's a continuity.
He's a continuity player, and I'm not knocking it. But if Partey can do the things you believe he can, Clive, and we will see in the scouting video that you have confirmed we're doing, then I really do think if you put Partey and Ceballos on the pitch and they achieve at the level that we think they can, yeah, okay. Then you get buy-in from me. Now, what I will say is I absolutely don't like this move if we stay in the back 3 and it's just a midfield 2. And the reason I would say that is at that point, I think you are neutering what Partey can bring you when you wind up. Clive, I think you wind up in a very Ceballos Xhaka type situation. I don't think you give Partey the ability.
You have to change your mindset. And I've been trying to say this, mate. I'm not sure.
Fire away.
You actually listen to me.
So to be clear, I have like a really good playlist of music that I play, and all I do is every time that you start talking, I hit play on the iPhone and it just goes right.
Okay. So you know what I'm going to say, right?
It's Hamilton. Channels, not going to lie. It's a Hamilton soundtrack. Yeah, go ahead.
5 channels in defense, 5 channels in attack. It's not so much a back 3, it's a back 5 when we're defending, right? And then we're a back 5, we're a back 4 when we're attacking. Sometimes we're a back 2 with 2 in front. We go into a square as a block. The key is you're buying players that can play in different zones of the pitch, that are comfortable with different zones of the pitch. So when you're looking at the upgrade opportunities in this team, look at the players that are one-dimensional. Look at the players that only play one position. They're the ones that I think are under the most pressure. So let me give you. So Xhaka has shown he can play centre mid, he can drop into that left-back role. He might be okay for another year. Lacazette now, one-dimensional, right? There's an upgrade opportunity there. He plays one role only, right? So I think that's what we've got to be looking at. Looking at Partey, he can play in the 3, he can play at the base of the V, he can play right 8, he can play left 8. When we're in different possession, we go into different zones of the pitch. He can drop into the right side. He can play off the left side. He can drive forward. He's played number 10, like I said, for his international team. Look at what he can do, and then you give him to a coach like Arteta. And I keep coming back to it. If he can raise El Neni from the dead, what's he going to do with this guy, who I think's been underutilized at Atletico? He's always got to play in front of the back four with close distances to his centre half. If he moves out of that block, he's dead. At Arsenal, he's going to be allowed to be progressive. He's going to allow to be supporting one of our bright attacking players. He's going to have a side to hold. The right centre mid is the area that we really need to develop. The left side, I think, Paul's always noted this, the left side of our base of our midfield, I think Ceballos wants to be there. I think it's natural for him to be on that side so he can see the pitch on his right-hand side and his vision goes from left to right naturally. I think he struggled on the right-hand side, and it's really interesting that Arteta put El Neni, who's happy on the right, with Ceballos. So you look like you got two lefties, two left-siders, Ceballos and Xhaka, two right-siders, El Neni and Partey. That to me is not bad. Is it better than Guendouzi and Torreira? Well, let's talk about those two for a minute. Torreira, too many touches. Sorry, Guendouzi, too many touches. Likes to feel himself. Likes to have the ball. Touches, touch. Pictures change. Everything's come in. All the holes are gone. Right? So Torreira suits Atletico Madrid perfectly. Screen in front of the back four. Tight distances.
Is he going there?
Torreira to Atletico, I think so. I think he's already done the Domenico on Friday.
Get in the comments if we know if that's done.
Yeah, it's not done yet, but I believe he's just a loan, no option to buy. By the way, that's what I've heard. So perfect for them. Close distances. They want someone to fire out of a gun, bang, go and make a tackle, so they can create their transitions. They're not looking to play through out from the back, right? So they're not looking to play through. We want people who can play on the half turn. We want to play through people, don't we? We can see how we're playing out from the back. So Torreira and Guendouzi suddenly don't play the way you want to play. One has too many touches. The other one's not comfortable without his satellite dish on looking over his shoulder. So now we got, where we say about El Neni, he's happy doing that. Where we say about Xhaka, he's happy doing that. And so Ceballos, and so will Partey. So now we have four centre mids at the base of our team that play the style we want to play.
Yeah, I mean, so look, Ashburton Grove says Arsenal will pull the Torreira deal at the 11th hour just to troll them. I think we trolled them enough by getting. How are they even going to take anyone on loan from us after we've just taken Partey from them without even having the decency to contact them at all? I mean, I love it. Oh, wait, we've got Don One says it's done. 7 million loan deal. How do you feel about? I mean, let me ask you this. I don't look. El Neni's not a me player. I think sometimes I think that being fine and being safe is actually not fine, that you need a player who has something that they do with a little bit of intention and as a plus. They have to be plus at something, and I'm not sure El Neni's plus at much, but like, do you have any misgivings about the idea that Torreira could have been more usable than we made him? Is it possible that this is an adjustment issue, that he just struggled to adjust to life in England? I mean, I know sometimes, Latin players will go to, Italy because there's a cultural association there and a lot of immigration that happens there, or they'll go to Spain where the language barriers is severe. Do you think that this is just an acclimation issue, or do you think that another Arteta didn't have a role for him?
I think maybe a little bit of both. I do think there's a personal side to this. Almost from the first 6 months he came along, there were people saying he was going to go back. I believe his wife is Italian, and I think there may have been things there regarding how he settled. I think maybe the team developed away from him slightly, and I don't blame Emery for this. I don't blame Emery for using the way he did. I just can't see Arsenal with somebody at the base of a diamond like he plays for Uruguay, just basically, just smashing people. I mean that not in a negative way. For Uruguay, they want that player to go and get people as they arrive into that area. They play a deep line defense or a deep line midfield, and they spring into counterattacks, 4 diamond 2 to 2 strikers. Bang. So they go tight and expand really quickly. At Arsenal, we want that player to be a playmaker. We don't want him to be destructive. So the team developed away for him. So Emery knew it, so he tried to make him a pressing agent higher up. People questioned it, right? But I could see what he was trying to do. right? We're trying to give the ball to them, and then we press them from the front. That didn't quite work. So the best way it's going to work is if we went to a 4-2-3-1. We've moved away to that from the back three because our defenders are not very good. That sort of killed him because there wasn't really much for him to do. So the team just developed away from his superpowers, and it's a real shame. He's a likable guy, likable player. And I think when he finds the right club, he will be excellent. I just feel it was the wrong club for him at the wrong time.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate. And, look, the one thing that's hard, football is hard, and signing players is hard. And you can sign the best players in the world and they don't work out. I remember when Fernando Torres went to Chelsea, and I was just devastated because I was like, oh, he's going to kill it there. And he couldn't make it happen. He was just spent, I guess. I don't know what the deal is, but it didn't work out for him. And we see cases like this all the time. I thought Torreira was good process, right age, a position we seem to need. Came in at a time when we're changing managers, didn't, really fit well. Emery wanted to use him as a 10 for some reason because he's Emery. And, it just never really worked out for him. And sometimes I think once a career trajectory at a club starts to go the wrong way and a player doesn't feel like it's working out, they don't feel, happy in their environment, sometimes you can't reboot it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And moving on is best for everyone. I think that, there's an expression at the poker table that I'm familiar with, chasing your money. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
I love to do it. The best thing. What you do is if you put money in and you have a bad hand, just keep betting in the hopes that the hand gets better. That's a little advanced poker strategy for you. It's called chasing your money.
We do that a lot, don't we? I mean,
we do kind of chase our money.
I always pick on this guy. I don't mean to, but it's Callum Chambers syndrome, right? I think he signed in 2013. Right, 2013 he joined Arsenal. Now, in my opinion, he's never going to take us to the promised land. Nice lad, decent player, potentially to play in midfield this season when he comes back, right? And I'll support him like anything else. But he's not taking us to the promised land. I knew that 4 years ago. And why? Crystal Palace or Fulham offered us 20 million. Just take it. The key is know when something's not working, but just reach its shelf life and churn. Yeah, just churn it. Just take the money and go again. Keep improving. Don't hold on to luggage that's going to weigh you down. End up walking out the door for no money. We've got too many of those. Too many of people living it up in Highgate, then walking out when they feel like they should. So the Torreira thing, although I like that guy, and he could have been used more effectively for us, in my opinion, very unlucky with injury, it's a good behavior trait that we are saying, you know what, you're not quite right for us. Maybe we're not quite right for you. We're going to do something about it. That's how I like it.
Quick update. Niall Shannon. That's probably not how you say that. I'm terrible. No, thank you. No, Shannon. Chris Wheatley saying Rekic will become Rekic will become an Arsenal player from 1 January. Agreement was reached with Hertha today, but medical and admin could not be completed in time. So that's interesting. So it does seem like the Jack Wilshere news is legit. Maybe I don't know if that's true, but Jack Wilshere's canceled, making him a free agent. Obviously, we're not going to go for Wilshere, but you got to feel for him. I loved Jackie Wilshere, and it never happened. And I think there's some people that felt he could have, and there's some people that he lived the professional life. But I think he was just beset by injuries, tried to play through them, put himself in harm's way with the way he played the game. And I, for one, feel sorry for him. I want to put something on the screen here, and because I think it's really interesting, and it comes from his live blog. So I'm going to pull that up right now. And here we go. Authority that Arsenal pushed very hard, only for Frank Lampard to shut it down late last week. I want to ask you, Clive, all right, look, where I am with the Partey, I can get behind it. I can get behind the Partey deal. The Jorginho deal, I mean, was that in an effort to do a discount Thomas Partey? I mean, a high volume passer who can tick things over and progress it a little more, like a ball progression, I guess you'd say. I mean, a guy who's also getting up there in age. Were we trying to find a discount solution to Partey? What's the thinking behind Jorginho? Because to me, you don't get Partey and Jorginho. What are you going to do then? Are you going to play a 3 of is Ceballos going to be the 10? I don't understand that thinking. So help me understand the club that would want Partey and Jorginho. Or do you think that it was we were looking for contingencies?
maybe it's a contingency because, again, Jorginho, when he first came over to Chelsea, Chelsea and Man City were fighting out for him. So they're not two small clubs, right? So the guy's got ability, particularly at the base and the midfield. And so they moved Kante out, didn't they? Which caused lots of trauma. But again, he was a player that he could play through. You know, he was somebody you can give the ball on the half turn, play through, and get the rhythm of your team going. And coaches and players like these players. They like players that you can give the ball to in any space when you're under pressure. Release valve players, I call them. And they're sort of more valuable to when you're on the pitch, because when you're on the pitch, there's a lot of stress in possession. There's a lot of stress when you're on the ball. It's got to be done quickly, got to be done in intensity. So you want people around you with a personality that say, I'll have this ball no matter what, no matter where it is. And for all my critiques of Xhaka and El Neni, for example, those two guys are brave. They don't care. They just want it all the time. They want the ball all the time. They move into space to want the ball. And Jorginho's another one, you know. So you look at I'll go back to Torreira. He's somebody that switches on, he's button switch on when the other team have got the ball. Do you see what I mean? His default personalities, they've got the ball, I've got to get it off them. You know, whereas Arteta at the pace of midfield, he wants give it to me players. And Jorginho is one of those. Now, my worry is that I feel as though there needs to be a level of speed and a touch of physicality to go with the teams who are adding physicality in their midfield, like Everton, like Aston Villa, like Liverpool. You know, Man City have got Fernandinho and Rodri.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about
a lot of Inos to keep straight.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Thanks for helping me out. So, and so we're talking about we have to go to these teams and dominate them. We're not going to dominate them with players that don't have the skill sets to do it. Now, I think last week I said in the podcast that I felt for the first time Liverpool respected us. They tuned in for those games, particularly the league game. They gave one of their best performances. They wanted to give Arsenal a bit of a slap because they know we're a coming force. We're not there yet, but we need to be taken seriously. We need to be slapped back in our box. They just about did that, and maybe if Lacazette scored a 2-2, then we may have a different story, but they deserve to win. I want to go to Liverpool in a year or so time, or next time we play them, and we stand next to them in the tunnel and we look right. We look like we have the right set of players in the right positions, and we're going to get more of these teams' respect. And I think Jorginho is purely tactical, maybe contingency. I'm a lot happier with Partey. I know he's 27. I was going to say my line, Paul Pogba's 27. And after seeing Paul Pogba yesterday, he looked 37, right? So
players age at different rates. I mean, a lot of people in here said they thought I was in my 20s, and I am in my 20s. So I don't understand what the deal is.
I was in my 20s at any point in my life, even when I was in my 20s. So
when did the hair go?
Well, obviously, I could grow it back.
Well, where would it grow back?
Grow back looking like the Himalayas. So
okay, fair enough.
Down.
Where
So,
when did you decide to go smooth?
Probably my mid-30s, probably. Yeah, a lot of black guys do this. There's no drama, right? So,
that looks fantastic, man. With the glasses, it's baller. We are actually about to be sponsored by Manscaped starting this week, and they sent an electric shaver that you're going to want to get your hands on it. They call it the lawnmower, which is awesome and hilarious. And yeah, they got some good stuff. We can help you out. Can help get you smooth in all kinds of places, Clive.
Okay.
I got you covered, buddy.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: who had the best window? Let's talk around the league. I mean, we did a little Schadenfreude with Paul earlier. We could do some with you because haha at Liverpool and haha at Man United. I want to be clear. I am not in my 50s. not in my 50s. What the hell? I mean, I'll take the sexy beast comment, but I'm not yet. Don't get me there. I'm not there. And I
can't see any of these comments. So
well, that's for the best. They're all just how much they love you. You know. Good. Right, so hey, who had the best window? I mean, obviously, look, Liverpool. It's fun to laugh at them. I think it's more United. I do hope that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is still there come November 1st when we play them. But when you look around the league and you look at the business being done, other than Arsenal obviously being the best team in all the world, by far the greatest club the world has ever seen, is there one that stands out? They say they know what they're doing and they could be a problem.
In a few teams, and it's interesting to see how teams are building. And I know we're looking at players like Socrates and Kalashnik and Mustafi and Chambers, well, and many others we'd like to see but maybe not all of everyone will see the back of, but players that need to go. There are lots of teams with luggage hanging around that don't want to go. It's not just us, right? So the market's changed. We pay the most. There's nowhere else to go. If they go somewhere else, we've got to pay half the wages. So it's just where we are. But it's interesting looking at teams and how they build. And so say look at Spurs. They've brought in that Højbjerg, whatever his name is, into centre mid. They're trying to add some more pieces, obviously, up front with Bale. So they're solidifying the base of their team. They could do with another centre half. I heard they were looking at Stones earlier on. And as a player, I was like at Arsenal. I know everyone laughs at me, but again, look at how we are playing out from the back. Look at the flexibility that we're trying to introduce. If Saliba was where he should be, I wouldn't be saying this, but the right side centre half, when David Luiz goes, I would love to see it to be John Stones. I just think he's a flexible ball-playing defender that we could use. And so people are building from the back. You look at Everton, they brought in Alan, they brought in Decore, they brought in Ben Godfrey today from the back again. They brought in number 10 in James. They got two powerful forwards in Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin.
You had it with DCL, by the way. I got to admit, like you were all over him, and I was like, big guy. Is he great? He is great. Yeah, he is great.
You know what? Someone said something. It's not me. I think it might have been Zach Lowe, who I sort of who's that guy's name again? I can't remember his name now. But I think it's Zach Lowe. He said something to me that was really interesting. That someone said about Calvert-Lewin. He said, because goal scoring has come last, he's had to work at all other parts of his game. So his energy, his running power, his jumping power, and he could do everything apart from score. And I kept looking at him, thinking, well, how do I feel when he's up against our defenders? And I felt petrified, right? Mm-hmm. Now, he was kicking the ball into the North Bank, right? But I'm thinking, crikey, he's winning every race. He's winning every challenge. He's holding the ball. I'm thinking, crikey, if he gets a goal scoring right, he's going to explode. And that's exactly what's happened. Again, he's trying to look at a player and see how he makes you feel. I don't feel we ever controlled him at any point, yet he never had any end product. And we jog off with the point. But you got to see a player when he's coming. And I always felt he was coming. Richarlison's another one, again, a little bit emotional, but, he's got amazing physical attributes, right? And for two players so young, Everton have got two diamonds there, right? They overpaid for Richarlison, but doesn't look too expensive now, Wait a couple of years for him, but it doesn't look too expensive now. Again, they're building with energy, intensity, and power. Liverpool, we all know what they stand for. They don't lose many races, right? They keep you in areas, they play territorial football, and they keep you there with energy, intensity, and when they get the ball back, they cut you like a knife with speed and precision, right? So football's going this way. Now we're doing it slightly differently, and and I like what we're doing. I like what we're doing from a coaching perspective. But we said earlier the other day, we can't keep wanting the manager to save all these, let's say, average players, but players that maybe are playing above themselves. We want the manager to have a player that actually makes the manager look good, makes his philosophy look good. I know we spoke about Aouar the other day, and I would have liked them both, to be honest. There's no problem with that saying that. We need them both, but it was never an either or. I wanted them both. But I do feel that the Partey one, and I'm not just saying this because he looks more likely, I felt that player is the one for the first step, and then maybe Aouar is the next step.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look around at like who had the best window, like we're often influenced just by early results. It's hard not to look at Chelsea, right? Because Chelsea brought in two of the best players that will come into England in this window, right? In Havertz and Werner. I mean, they may not have the coach to unlock it. It may not have been exactly what they need. So then the question is do you have the best window when you bring in the best talent, or do you have the best window when you improve your team the most? Everton have certainly seemed to have improved their team the most. And a lot of that, though, is influenced by 4 games. They've won 4 games, so we're making that conclusion. I think more often than not, talent wins out, Clive. I think not always. It clearly doesn't always happen. I mean, Leicester didn't have the most talented team when they won the league, and you could argue that City have had the most talented team the last several seasons, and they haven't won it, although Liverpool is right there with them. But Chelsea certainly seem to have brought in a lot of talent. They just have a dumpster fire back line, and they have a bad keeper that maybe they've addressed that. What?
They're not balanced, mate.
They're not balanced, and they don't have a great coach. So the question is like, does bringing in Werner and Havertz make them a lot better, or is it just a case of upgrading a position where they already had talent and not addressing their weaknesses? And I mean, the irony is that Arsenal used to do that, right? Arsene Wenger loved buying 10s and wingers when he needed DMs and central defenders. And Chelsea seem to now have taken the mantle of buying all the stuff they already have and not the stuff that they need.
Yeah, so Chelsea and Man United are doing what I call vanity signings. If you look at Havertz,
what does Cavani do for the? I don't see that.
Look at Havertz. Did they need him? Werner's a good player. But are they going to play him up front when he's old in England? Right? He needs to be in the front too, really. When they play him off the side, off the left, I'm not sure how effective he is. So you got Havertz. What's he going to be? The Chelsea have been 4-3-3 for years. They can't do it now. They got to go 4-2-3-1. So now they're in a bit of a problem. What do? They put Werner off the left in the 4-2-3-1. They got centre forward in Abraham. Is he going to be a centre forward? Is it going to be Werner? And they stick Giroud on late in games. They've now developed a problem for themselves. They don't know how to use these players. Similar to Manchester United. They bought Donny van der Beek. Why did they buy him? They bought him because they couldn't get Jack Grealish out. So they went for the guy for 40 million, to the guy for 80 million. They should have gone for the guy for 80 million because you know exactly how they would use him. They went for the guy for 40 million. Looks like a school child running around the midfield. Absolutely not ready for this Premier League at this moment in time. They didn't need him. They needed somebody that could stand next to Harry Maguire and teach him how to play football. They need a left back, which I think they bought today. And they needed maybe some bit more creativity on the right-hand side. That's what they needed. So you have these situations where people are spending money not sensibly, whereas Arsenal, Spurs, Aston Villa. Let's talk Aston Villa. Very simple buy. Centre forward, they lost their centre forward last year. He got injured with a bad injury. They buy Ollie Watkins, 38 mil. Good buy. Good player, ready for the league. They just do a simple thing by loaning Ross Barkley, put him in the 10. Suddenly, Jack Grealish hasn't got 4 people waiting to kick him. He's only got 2 people waiting to kick him. I can take 2 because the other 2 now got to look after Ross Barkley. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Balance. When you see balance, it's almost like get your windows cleaned. You didn't realize they were dirty until you got the window cleaner come around. Then you can see it. It's like so clear. It's so clear. Second half yesterday with Arsenal, balance. As soon as you see it, oh my God, that's it. Look where Saka is. Look where Pepe is. Look where Willian is. Willian getting moaned at for 60 minutes. Move him 10 yards inside and he's strutting around the midfield, popping the ball off, turning around, looking so comfortable. It was instant. When you see it, it's obvious, and you don't need to be a podcast analyst to recognize this. It's just like, there you go. That's it. How can we build on it? How can we improve it?
Well, the way we can build on and improve this live stream, not that you are not more than enough. You may notice that above us, a black space has appeared, and that black space has appeared in the hopes that when I click the following click, that it will put a person into that black space. And I'm going to click and put that person into that black space in a moment. Oh gosh, it's put the wrong people in the wrong space. That's okay. That's okay. No, that's not any better.
No, you're too big.
I've been told. So I'm told this works. This works good enough. It's the best I can do. I'm not an expert at the stuff and things and stuff. But joining us now is Andrew from Arseblog. Hello, Andrew.
Hey guys, how's it going? You're too big is quite the thing to hear on your arrival in a live stream like this.
You're trying to take pauses, Roll there? You're trying to take
well, no, not really. I'm just, this is the internet. Strange things are said and strange things happen. So, just respect my safe areas, please.
I will certainly not do any of that. So Andrew is here to chat all things transfer window. We've actually had your up. So you are leaving the live blog to just twist in the wind, or do you have people for that sort of thing?
People. No, Andrew Allen is doing some stuff. We've been on it together throughout the day. So, coordinating our tea breaks and toilet breaks and things like that. So we'll keep going right up until 11 o'clock tonight. So I wasn't expecting it to be interesting, to be honest. I thought we might see a few outward movements, but not anything incoming. So that's good.
Cool.
Yeah, so
nice
you please.
So anyway, I've not seen you for many.
Okay. You can love you.
We talk, mate. We talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We don't do the video thing. You don't do
We
that.
talk.
You know, just because I still have hair doesn't mean I look good on camera.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we have adult conversations about the world and football, right? None of your rubbish, right?
nobody wants that. We do it for the clicks over here, baby. So look, Andrew, I mean, it's great that we're doing something. I'm curious if you, first of all, feel that this was the plan all along, that going and getting Partey was what Arteta wanted, where you think the strategy comes from. I mean, obviously, Aouar and Partey, very different players that address very different needs. Do you think it's sort of unusual, unorthodox that we shifted from like a 10, attacking 8-10 player to more of a deep-lying central midfielder? Where are you right now? First of all, on your excitement about Partey coming, but on just the strategy of how we wound up with this being the path we took.
The strategy, I'm not quite sure, because I know that they were definitely in for Aouar and they really wanted him. So why? Maybe this is something they've planned all along. The information was that they were going to have to sell before they could buy. So maybe they've had to make a decision to take one or the other, and they thought, which one is oven ready, if you like, to use a phrase that's been going around the last couple of weeks. Who's the guy who's going to come in and do it straight away? I do wonder if the Partey thing gives us something at the base of midfield, an improvement on what we've got, and there is scope for players to play the role that maybe Aouar would have played if he'd come in. And I'm thinking, and I'm sure you guys have spoken about this, about Bukayo Saka perhaps as somebody who could fit into that midfield role. I know you've talked about that. We do have Gabriel Martinelli to come back into the squad. There's Willian there. There's Pepe there. We have to find a way to use Pepe. He is a big signing, a talented player. And as he showed on Sunday, if you get him going, there's something special there that nobody else in the team really has. So I just wonder if they're looking at Xhaka, El Neni, and thinking if we can bring a Partey in there and put him alongside Ceballos and put somebody else in midfield, it might just be a bit more balanced straight away. So that's my thinking. I just don't quite know what the strategy has been, because I think it's been a bit all over the place for various reasons.
I mean, it's because one of the things, Andrew, that like just for me was hard to understand. Not that I don't like getting Partey. I am warming to it, but it seems that they would have been similarly cost the club a similar amount, all things considered. So if the consideration is economic, I'm curious as to why you think, like, if we weren't willing to pay up for Aouar and the Partey deal winds up costing roughly the same amount, is that sort of hard for you to understand? I don't want to put words in your mouth. How do you feel we arrive at a situation where we balked at paying the money for Aouar that wound up being roughly the money we paid for Partey, if that makes sense?
It's a really good question. I wish I could give you the answer. I don't know. I don't know what the decision-making was, whether there was something at the Leon end of things that we didn't like, whether there was some add-on clauses, or they just felt like they couldn't pay that money for Aouar. And yeah, maybe they just felt it was maybe too much of a risk for a player who's still got some developing to do. I don't quite know. I mean, it is more or less the same ballpark in terms of finance and everything else. I know that there's been some discussion about, the value and the sell-on clause or the resale value and those kind of things. And I do see that, but at the same time, we're in a situation where this time, next year or maybe June, we're going to be without Ozil. We're going to be without Mustafi. We're going to be without Socrates. There's probably one or two others who might go as well. So you're looking at taking 500,000 more off the wage bill. So maybe they just thought they could do this now and they don't have to, dwell on that consideration too much. Even if there are very obvious deals we've done in the not too distant past, which, are still a problem in terms of moving players on.
Yeah, and by the way, I'll just let Raul know. Was that Raul? Is that right? Is that the Raul? Saying we need Tim. Stillman will be here. Stillberto will be here as well, attempting to carry me through the final moments of this this exercise. So, Clive, I mean, for you, I know you're excited about a Partey. Let's look ahead a little bit. There's big games coming up. Partey arrives during a international break, or an interlull, as Andrew has famously termed it. And then it's big games right away. I want to be as outraged as possible. And the best way to get outraged is when your new big money signing doesn't debut in a big game right after a deadline day signing. So what are the chances that I'll get the opportunity to be thusly outraged and that he will not feature right away? What do you think in terms of his integration?
I think there could be a few players coming back from international duty that may not feature because of the environment they're going to be kept in, right? I don't know how COVID safe they're going to be. They may have to come back. I think it's going to be a real challenge. I think it's going to be a lot of positive tests coming up. And so, yeah, I'm not worried. I'm sure he's not going to sign one of your 5-week contracts. He's going to sign a 4-year contract, 3+1, hopefully with a little break in there, or an option in there. So, yeah, 3+1, he'll get his time. And look, I grew up with, I'm a son of Vieira, right? He's my favorite player ever. And what he gave Arsenal, I don't think we've ever replaced at any point. And I like to. We've got the guy up front. Everyone knows who that is. We're developing young centre halves. We got a decent goalkeeper. We haven't got the guy in centre midfield. Potentially now we've got the guy, and I just think teams need those totem poles in their team that people can hold on to for physical or technical confidence. I don't mind which way it is, but that's how a team is built. I always look at a team sort of in not just in a technical way or a footballing way, but I look at it in an emotional way, a psychological way, and how we feel when we have certain players on the pitch and what they bring. And they bring things. When Aubameyang steps onto a pitch, he looks supreme. He brings threat. He brings a smiling face. He brings positivity. He's part of our identity at the moment. We need something else. We need more of that. We need Pepe to show more of himself, not just footballistically, but from a personality point of view, because football-wise, I think we all agree he's bubbling under the surface, right? He's right there. He's right there. We need some of that. We're fans. We're mad fans, right? We want to connect.
Me more than most is mad.
We can't quite connect to Pepe. I'm not sure we're going to connect to Partey from a human point of view. But football-wise, I think we will connect to him. And I think we've got a number of young players at the back that I think we need to develop that connection with, because that connection between us and the team is what takes a good team to be a special team, in my opinion.
Do you guys see Partey's arrival as, I don't want to use the word transformative, but as a way of playing a 4-3-3 on a more regular basis than we might have done? As much as I like Aouar and I think he's a really talented player, he can slot into one of the positions, but I think Partey maybe gives us the ability to have that security in midfield, to play with a 4 at the back, as we did against Sheffield United on Sunday. And I've long thought that a back 4 is what Arteta wants. Even if we all know it's kind of fluid and we can shift things around and move the pieces around the various zones on the pitch, it just feels to me like Partey is somebody who could provide that security for, a back 4, which might be, and maybe a central defensive partnership, which might have to sort of grow together over the course of the season.
I have to take issue with one thing Clive said. You said we've been searching for a Vieira type, and I think you forget we had Alex Song, we had Matthew Flamini, we had Francis Coughlin, so several Vieira replacements down the years. What's your response to that in terms of the structure?
Yeah, I think we spoke about it the other day, didn't we, about enablers. I think Partey is an enabler to the next phase of Arsenal, right? So he's going to enable Bellerin to play 15 yards further forward, as we saw yesterday. When he's further away from his box, he's a better player. When he's close to his box, he can be a bit weak in defensive areas, right? So let's get him on the front foot, away from his box, and that's what Elneny did, and I think Partey can do that better. We have young centre halves potentially. We know one we're not sure about at the moment where he is, but one we've just arrived who looks amazing in Gabriel. Again, we allow those players to settle, right? So we may see a little bit more risk play from Ceballos, even from Xhaka. People will look around and say, I can go a bit earlier. I can commit to my runs. I can drive through people a bit further away from my goal. I just feel, and we saw just this weekend, the changing formations within a game, on the ball, off the ball, how we protect our channels. So when you have a player that you can move 5 yards to the right, you can stick him at right back, you can stick him at right centre half, you can stick him at number 10. You can do stuff with this guy. So yeah, I just like that because I think it's a continuation of the hybrid type flexible philosophy of what Arteta's trying to build. And players that can move from zone to zone is exactly what I want to see.
Yeah, I'm adding myself back in. Sorry, guys. You stuck with me. Yeah, I know that people enjoyed that moment where I was off the screen for a bit, but I have to put myself back on to bring the microphone back on. Andrew, I don't know how big you want to go opinion-wise here, but this is a safe space for big opinions. I promise we won't share them with anyone. Do you?
Nobody's watching anyway, right?
Yeah. No, not really. Do you want to give me your take on Partey period? Just like, are you excited about it? Do you think it was a good move? Do you have any concerns, age or price or any of that? And then B, if this is the last of the moves, ingoings, outgoings, do you want to give us maybe like a letter grade style conclusion about the window? I mean, I think that if you asked people 3-4 weeks ago, if Partey's all we did, people said, no, we need Aouar and Partey. I think people are definitely trying to talk themselves into being excited right now. And I don't want to rain on their parade, despite it being #on brand. Are you excited about Partey, and do you feel that this is enough to make the window look successful to you?
I think without something in midfield, it would have been a really difficult window to get behind. I think Partey is a good player. He is a very good player. He brings something to our midfield that we don't have. If we're complaining about, what the ceiling is for someone like Granit Xhaka or Mohamed El Neni who play in those deep areas, well, we've made an improvement there. I feel like there are players in the squad, and I said this earlier, I think Saka could be developed into a player who could play in central midfield, maybe in the wide areas as well. So yeah, I'm happy about it. I think it gives a bit of a gloss to the window. I've been impressed with what I've seen so far with Gabriel, particularly in the duels and the one-on-one situations where I think you can be a very good footballer, but to win those duels time and time again is a really important thing in modern football for a central defender. So I'm happy with him so far. I know we've brought in defenders in the past who've looked good to begin with, and we've fallen out of love with them a bit, but hopefully that won't be the case with him. The goalkeeper, I can't say anything about the goalkeeper. We got 20 million for Emi Martinez, so I'm sure that went some way to bringing in Partey. So I'm happy enough. Depends how far back you want to go with the deals that we've done, the Cedric and the Pablo Mari deals, which were finalized, I guess, during the summer, weren't they? We knew that they were going to get done, but the finalization of those deals was towards the end of the season, whenever that was. I think you have to have question marks about those. Cedric, I don't need to. I think I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here, right, on that one. And Pablo Mari, look, I can't say with any assurance whether he's going to be a good player, a bad player, indifferent, or whatever it is. I just feel like there's something questionable when you buy a player in a position and then a couple of months later you go and buy another player in the exact same position, same kind of profile, for twice as much money. I think
that's not a good thing. That's not good business. They don't teach that at business school doing that.
No, I would say that part of our strategy was not particularly good. It might not have been club strategy. It might have been one particular person's strategy. But look, that person's no longer around. So look, those guys have got something to prove. We do still have too many players in the defense, don't we? We've still got Mustafi, we've still got Socrates, there's Marie, there's Gabriel, there's Louise, there's Chambers, there's Holding. There's too many. So I think that's been part of our problem, So if you're basing it on who's come in, I'm pretty okay with it, I think. But in terms of what we've managed to sell and players we've managed to move on, I think we found that exceptionally difficult, like many other clubs have as well. We found that really difficult. And I do wonder if the people in charge of that business aren't necessarily the right people to be in charge of that business, if you like. I don't think Edu is that guy. You know what I mean?
Look, I mean, let's agree with this. Transfer strategies for clubs that are well run are not single window strategies. They are planned out many, many years in advance with lots of complicated calculations about when you want to sell certain players. Are players at a point where you should move on from them, where you need to replace them? And I do think the turmoil we've had at the executive level and changing our systems and our strategies, and chief scouts going and the chief scout going, and the data guy, Jason Rosenfeld's going, and Sven going, and Raul coming and going, and Gazitas going, Edu coming, and then Arteta, the new coach, and then he becomes manager. This is a wordy word salad way of me saying it's hard to get it right when the people making the plan turn over, because then the plan turns over, right? And so if you say that a good club has a 3-year, 6-window strategy kind of mapped out, loosely mapped out, you don't necessarily know the players, but you might know how you want to build, based around the system that the coach wants to play and the recruitment strategy in mind and the resources available. How do you do that when every year you're changing the people who drive that plan? So I have a lot of sympathy for the idea that we're doing things that are very short term right now, in part because we haven't had the opportunity to institute any long-term planning. So I think it'll be 2 seasons from now when we can look back and say, did the Edu and Arteta partnership yield dividends in terms of forward planning and really creating an idea, a philosophy about how we wanted to go forward? I do want to get to this, and I don't know if you guys are on social media at all, Clive, if you've been checking the Twitters while Kyrie Georgiou, and I'm sorry for the name thing, which is my specialty, botching names, says Aouar deal perhaps back on with many exclamation points. I don't want to let me know. Do I let Love back in? Oh, wait, we have now a stop with Aouar, liars. Is it not true?
Well, there's something out there. I'm again.
Oh, wait. We got fooled by a parody account. Is that the case? We're breaking parody account news here.
There's a little bit of chat. Sorry, Andrew. There's a little bit of chat saying with Dembele staying at Barcelona, that means Depay's not leaving Lyon. Jeffrey Adelaide is also staying. So that means they're saying that Lyon need to reopen negotiations with Arsenal, and they do. And they're saying that Lyon have asked for an extension to make that happen. I don't know if that's true. I'm just reading something. The story adds up, and that's why people write these things, because the story does add up, right? So yeah, let's see what happens. And obviously, if that was the case, I don't think we'll be paying 50, 60 million euros. It would be a little bit less than that, and that could be a financial issue with Lyon.
Can't see it right now.
No,
can we do a little something? Do you guys mind if we pivot off of the Partey thing just for a second?
Yeah, sure.
To one of my favorite topics. Other teams losing. Andrew, how much did you enjoy the football? Because I know transfers are the most important thing, but football is easily in the top 5 most important things about following a football club. How much did you enjoy the football at the weekend? And did you have any struggles laughing at United given who was doing it to them?
No, not really. I think you have to just be able to compartmentalize, somebody is going to feel terrible and somebody's going to be in a world of pain. And if Manchester United are in a world of pain, I really don't care who inflicts that pain upon them. It was absolutely hilarious, to be honest. I don't ever want to see Tottenham win. I don't want them to feel confident and get all that kind of jizz going on for them. But to watch United just be taken apart like that, and I think the funniest thing for me was, the people who are bending over backwards not to just point out the very fucking obvious, which is that Solskjaer is he's not the guy. He's not the guy. And the longer he stays there as not the guy, the happier I will be, to be honest. So that was really, really funny. I had a good laugh at that for sure.
Did you follow the Bruno Fernandes Maguire story?
I saw someone posted something on Twitter, all right, but I'm not quite. Is that true? Is that genuine? That story?
I want to believe it. So if you read something on the internet and you want it to be true, isn't that basically the same as it being true, or no?
I guess so. It's one of those things I'd like. There are certain people in our fan base, who might make up stories about where the club's photographers are, ahead of a new deal. Those kind of things. Those sort of people put that
lens induction. Is that what it is?
Lens induction events. Those kind of things. So I don't necessarily trust everything that I read, but I mean, look. Let's face it, if we want to talk about central defensive problems and heartaches and everything else, there is no better fan base in the world to do that than the Arsenal fan base, given what we've gone through over a number of years. But holy shit, imagine spending 80 million quid on Harry Maguire.
I mean, you know, maybe they had bribery situation was. Maybe they were funneling money back to his what was what he get nabbed for in Greece? Bribery or something like that, extortion. Clive, did you all right, so let me just say the story, because people are saying what story. The story, and again, it may not be true, but let's all just assume it's true because it's more fun, is that Fernandez went at Maguire in the dressing room and basically tore him apart and said he wasn't fit to wear the armband, got furious with him, which again, now that I say it out loud, it doesn't sound particularly true, but that they had to be separated, which, I mean, I would have enjoyed seeing Maguire headbutt Bruno Fernandes, be like caving someone's head in with a brick. Yeah, a cinder block. But yeah, I gotta say, I mean, let's indulge in gossip. It is deadline day. Deadline day is a day for gossip. Well, Clive, let me ask you. I mean, the Maguire thing is a classic case of getting it wrong. So they spent a little more on Maguire than Liverpool did on Van Dijk. What do we think about central defensive signings? And it looks like we got it right with Gabriel. Still very, very early to say. I mean, Arsene Wenger famously said, "I'm sorry, Rob Holding didn't cost 50 million," and now we know he's pretty good, but he's not a 50 million pound player. So I feel like central defenders are hard to solve. Now, the good news is, guys, we have all of them. We have literally all of them. There are no central defenders left in world football. They all play for Arsenal now. Actually, some of them are going to be good. But Clive, I mean, how do you get it right buying central defenders? Because I think that no one seems to have a really good read on how to get that right. I mean, Liverpool got Van Dijk, but they've had plenty of comedy central defenders themselves.
Yeah, so Harry Maguire would have probably suited Burnley more than he suited Manchester United because of where Burnley defend. They defend deep. When he was at Leicester, they defended deep and they broke, right? And they went whoosh down the pitch and, Mahrez to Vardy, there you go, right? So it comes back to your scouting, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to be. If you want to defend high up, then you get Van Dijk and Gomez. They're not losing many races, right? What's the point of running against them? So it's about being smart, right? So Arsenal, in my opinion, haven't bought defenders for the team they want to be, right? So when they have controlling centre mids, we've got the ball, we creep up the pitch, our fullbacks go high, they ping into the corners, and we've seen Son and Kane run into those corners, and we're watching these big spaces and watching our defenders breathing out of their backsides, trying to get back into the holes. The only one that could do it continuously was Koscielny, and he did it until we broke him, right? So bad buys, bad scouting, buying players who are good players but not the right players for the team that we are, the team we want to be. And so we spoke the other day about control. To have control, I think Arteta will eventually want to push the team up. So the reason why we're excited about Saliba and Gabriel is we know we can do that with these two players. We hope on Saliba that is to be confirmed. But we've seen enough of him on YouTube and on Y-Scout and on various other times. We know he can defend high up. We know he wins his races. We know that he only made 2 fouls in the French League One last year. He's a one-on-one merchant. That's what you need. Then you can take gambles with your fullbacks because you've got people to do that. Manchester United did a vanity signing with Maguire. He is not that player, and that is an expensive mistake. And to sit there and put Lindelof or Eric Bailly next to him is basically football suicide, right? So,
did you see the Merson clip going around? There's a Merson clip resurfacing from when they paid for. I guess he was on just basically into them to say he's never worth that, and here's why, and he can't play the high line, he can't play a big guy for sitting deep and defending, and I'm not here to Merson, obviously, but had his share of issues with our club and having to go at Arsenal and all that, but he looked dead on. I mean, he nailed every Maguire in that clip. Seen it, check it out. It's pretty funny.
His best period playing for England was in the back three, wasn't it? He played on the left of a back three, Stones in behind and Kyle Walker to the right or Joe Gomez to the right. That means he could just get the ball. He can go and press people. Never had to worry over his shoulder. And actually, he used to play midfield for Sheffield United when he was young. So he could drive out of his hole, drive out, 1-2, join the play. Everyone goes, oh, what a great player he is. £80 million, bang, done. Let's stick it on the halfway line with Lindelof, with Luke Shaw. I mean, seriously, these people are getting paid millions for this, right? Let's stick on the halfway line, Lindelof and Luke Shaw. And we want you then to now start winning 30-yard races. Oh my goodness. It's just, it is awful. And this is Manchester United. And I think, well, good luck to them, right? Good luck to them.
Long may it last.
Yeah, I'm getting some reports that my internet is lacking fitness. We are on for 2 hours, 9 minutes and 58 seconds of doing this. So I apologize if it's not coming through smoothly. Hopefully it will magically fix itself. I do have to say,
do you need me to stay, Elliot? Because then you might come back a little bit more.
Well, yeah, you've been on a long time. So why don't we let you go? Keep Andrew for time. You get 10 minutes?
Yeah, I can go till about half if you need me.
Yeah, if that's cool. So
I'll leave you to have some alone time. You know what I mean? Without me.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Good to see you. Clive and I will be doing a party scouting video later this week. We'll have a regular pod coming up. Good stuff, guys. Clive, talk to you later.
See you later, my son.
Cheers, bud.
Cheers, Clive.
And goodbye. Hello, Andrew. The Merson clip is up there if anybody wants it. Elliot's internet bit of the handbrake. Yeah, sorry, guys. Doing the best I can. So, Andrew, I mean, let's talk sales for a bit. I mean, the Guendouzi thing, do you have any strong feelings one way or the other about how we've engineered that? My take on Guendouzi was sort of like, he put us in a position where it would have been very, very difficult to get it exactly right. Right. I mean, so he acted up. There had to be discipline. We disciplined him so firmly that we probably destroyed any market for the player, is my read on it. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but we made it pretty clear that we didn't want him. We wanted nothing to do with him. He was a cancer, all that stuff. But do you think that there was a way that Arsenal could have threaded the needle of disciplining him while not destroying the market value for him? Or do you think it was a case where the player made it next to impossible?
I think if clubs out there saw a really good player available to them, probably at a knockdown price, because we were obviously willing to let him go, I'm just a bit surprised that there wasn't more interest in him, that there weren't more bids. I know there was some talk of Villarreal. He would have had to go and play with Unai Emery again. And, he's a bit madcap Guendouzi, but he probably didn't fancy that. But the big clubs that were being talked about, the PSGs, the Barcelonas, they weren't in for him. They were not, he just wasn't a player that they were going to go after. I am surprised that there wasn't a level of interest in him, though. I am. I don't know why it is. Maybe they just don't fancy him. I just think if the talent is there in a player, clubs are more than willing to overlook all kinds of stuff. And I don't think what Guendouzi did, was especially bad. We don't know still what he did. It was just a falling out behind the scenes. So it's not as if he's, facing a court case or he was drink driving and ran over a load of orphans or something like that.
I mean, you would sort of hope not. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we haven't heard about that, but it's not anything as egregious as that. It was just a falling out between a player and a manager, which happens all the time. Our ability to sell him and move him on was a bit compromised because of that. But where were the offers? Where were the bids? Where were the clubs that were coming in for him? And it can't be just the COVID market, because players are moving. If you're wanted, clubs are finding money for you. 28 million quid from Aston Villa for a player from the Championship. Was there no Premier League club out there who saw Guendouzi play against them and said, yeah, we'll have a go at that, 10 million quid right towards the end of the window, we could get ourselves a good player here? So I'm a bit surprised by it. As to why, look, I really don't know. I really don't know. Hertha Berlin were in for him, I think, earlier in the summer, and he turned them down. And when it became clear he's not going to play, you got to change your mind.
So what do you think happened? I mean, if you just had to look at a crystal ball, I mean, he comes back and he comes back and he has 1 year left on his deal. Do you think the hope is that he plays well this season and we get, something, 15 million or whatever for him next summer? I wouldn't imagine that we have much expectation of him and Arteta working it out. If you had to look at a crystal ball, how do you see it playing out?
I think he does well at Hertha Berlin and he wants to stay there, and we find a way of making that deal happen, I think would be the easiest way of finding a solution for everybody. Or if he plays really well at Hertha Berlin and attracts more suitors, then, great. It might just raise his market value. It's difficult to know, or difficult to see how, if, he's been integrated back into training and he's still not being picked for games, how does he then convince the manager to, to bring him back in? How do they mend those fences when he's in Germany and, Arteta is not? So I don't see that there's any way back for him as long as Arteta is manager.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with that. I don't think there's any way back either. What do you think about the selling side of things? I mean, do you think that, people say, Arsenal are bad at selling. And I mean, I understand what people mean when they say that. I think it's more that we've been reluctant to sell players when we should have. I can't blame Arsenal for not being able to sell distressed assets, right? And that's the halo effect of being an 8th place team. Liverpool can sell Brewster for 23 million or whatever because they're champions and they have that sheen around them that you get. But the halo effect of being 8th is the players that you that can't get into your team in an 8th place side are not going to have a big market for them, and especially the older ones. So Socrates, Mustafi, I can understand why it's hard to ship them. Kolasinac on big wages. What about some of the younger players? Do you think that Arsenal should be braver about just being willing to move on players, like a Maitland-Niles, for example? Do you think that we made a mistake? I mean, we had a firm offer, I think, from Wolves, is at least some of the reporting that I saw. So do you think that we should just be braver about deciding, when it's time to move on from these young players? I mean, obviously that can always come back to bite you. You can get it wrong, but you can get it wrong holding on to them too long as well, can't you?
Yeah, you can. I suppose they were looking for more from Wolves when you consider what Wolves have spent on some other players and what some of the market values of players, are. We talk about Brewster. I know that he's coming from the Champions, and I know he's a striker, so it's a little bit different. But if he's going for 23 million and he hasn't scored a first-team goal, he hasn't scored a Premier League goal. We've got Ainsley Maitland-Niles with over 100 Arsenal appearances, now an England international. Maybe we get criticized for selling too cheaply if we let someone like that go for below that kind of price, So I don't know what else is out there for some of the young players, for the Willocks, Nelson, Smith Rose. I think loan moves perhaps, and I think now the arrival of Partey will probably see someone like Joe Willock go on loan, which I think will be good for him. He needs that, and the club need it too, to get a better idea of where he is and what he's going to be. So look, I think you're right to say that the players that we really, really wanted to move on are the most difficult ones to move on. Socrates, Mustafi, Ozil, Kolasinac, who, did not want to go. And I think it suits him quite fine to stay at Arsenal. He likes the life and he likes, hanging out with his friend Mesut and everything else. So, it is difficult. I would question, and I do wonder, when you were talking earlier about everything changing and the amount of changes that have happened at board level and executive level since Arsene Wenger left in the 2 years. We've gone through this sort of reshuffle, and then we've reshuffled the reshuffle. I wonder if now, in terms of adding some stability, we need to add some expertise as well. And one of the jokes we've been making on the Arscast Extra is like, what about a head of sales? What about somebody who is that guy who's good at negotiating, who can extract the maximum value from every transfer, every deal that we do? So that might be something that we add to the team as we're going forward. I don't think there was any scope to do that before the end of this window, given what happened with Raul and his fairly sudden departure. It did maybe leave us in a bit of a hole, if you like, from that perspective, but was it the right thing for the club to do? Yes, they obviously thought it was. So I think maybe now they might take stock and consider, is there somebody else required at executive level to work with Arteta, to work with Edu on transfers both in and out?
Yeah. Look, structurally, it's going to take some work. I think that's clear. And I also think you can only work with what you've got, right? You can't turn Socrates into $15 million, 50 million pound sale, and you can't turn Mustafi into a 30 million pound sale. It just is what it is. And I have sympathy for that. I do think that you make it a little harder, as we've discussed. You make it harder to defend yourself about needing to dig out of the hole when you won't take your medicine. And by that, I mean, all right, don't give a 4-year deal to 29-year-old Cedric. And, don't necessarily, even though Willian might improve you, do you go get a 31-year-old and give him a 3-year deal, knowing that you're trying to dig out from other players that you can't move on and you need resources? Like, I definitely think we are reluctant to take our medicine. And I think we got burned by years of, Van Persie going to United and Nasri going to City and Adebayor going to City and Cesc leaving us the way he did. And we didn't want to be that club anymore. But you saw it with not being willing to sell Alexis that summer when there was a 50 million pound bid for him, and not being willing to let go of Ozil, and not selling Ramsey when there was, again, a bid for him, and instead letting him run out his contract. And you hate to do the what if, but if we got 50 million for Alexis, and if we got 50 million for Ramsey, and if we got 40 million for Ozil instead of re-signing him, and you had 140 million you could reinvest instead of Mkhitaryan and, a fortnight player and no money. Like I think taking our medicine is something that we will have to learn to do. And I'll be curious to see if this team is a little willing to balance. Because what's hard, Andrew? The reason it's hard to make your coach your manager. Coaches have to live in the now. They don't have the luxury of saying, we'll be good in 3 seasons. You know what I mean? Like, a coach's job is to be good right now. But is that at odds sometimes with what a club needs to do?
Yeah, sure. But I think, when you talk about a manager gives you that security to perhaps implement something a bit more long-term. Like, I think Arteta is absolutely focused in the short term, because that's what he talks about. He talks about wanting to, win football matches and how he has to win football matches. At the same time, though, it's impossible for me to sit here and think that he doesn't have long-term plans as to what he wants, what kind of a team he wants, what kind of a squad he wants, what kind of players he wants in that squad. And so it's about, doing that incrementally. And I do wonder as well if, what's going on with COVID, the financial lessons that we have learned, some of them have been quite expensive lately. Some of them, some of the spending has been suspect, right? And we saw the arrival of a corporate lawyer Tim Lewis, this guy who's come in, he's a lawyer buddy of KSE. He's worked with them, and like something fairly significant happened not long after he came in. So I just wonder if it might all feed into a more rigid, here's the word again, strategy when it comes to spending and also when it comes to selling. Like, we've got a lot of stuff that nobody wants. But if you start developing players like Saka, like Maitland-Niles, like Nketiah to a certain extent, who I think, is somebody we can improve on, no question, right? Eddie's a good young striker, but if the 20 million pound bid came in tomorrow for Eddie, you're selling, right? You're selling.
Yep. I mean, you have to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course. So I think there will probably be a bit more, or we'll be a bit more willing to do those kind of deals. But you've got to get your squad in a place where your players are attractive, and our players are kind of, slobs sitting on the couch scratching their bellies with, old pizza boxes beside them. Nobody wants them.
Yeah, look, I mean, it is interesting, though. We are sitting on a trove of potentially excellent, very young players who, if we show that we have that savvy we're talking about, Andrew, like, we could build something really special if we sell at the right time and keep the right ones and get that right. And Rodney makes a point. I think part of the issue is there's no clear succession plan for these players we want to take our medicine for. If we moved Oba, what would the plan be? And I do think that this isn't like, you have Edouard, right? He's a player that we were sort of linked with for a hot minute, a striker that's up and coming, a young guy. With Aouar, does that give you a succession plan where you don't have to have a Willian? Like, I definitely agree that in order to sell and move players on, you have to have that success. At the back, we've clearly started to build a young backbone of what we want at the back. Up front, Saka, Pepe is going to be here for many years, and hopefully is going to really show his stuff. Danny Ceballos is a tricky one because I think he's going to have a great season, which only makes it harder for us to actually have him long-term. Midfield is why I'm really a little concerned, is just that, let me ask you this, Andrew. If I said to you 3 years from now, who's going to be in our starting midfield three if we're playing a midfield three, are any of them at the club right now?
Jesus, 3 years is a really long time.
2 years. 2 years.
Look, I don't know. I mean, Ceballos is a really interesting one. Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, a lot can happen in squads. I think one of the things that we perhaps overlook, it doesn't feel like it, but I think we've churned a lot of playing staff as well over the last number of years. When you look at, maybe if you go back to look at the team that played against Liverpool that day, with the Oxlade-Chamberlain day, I mean, how many of those guys are still at the club, you know?
So there's a lot of turnover. Yeah, that's fair.
You know, we have had a lot of turnover in the playing staff as well. So, look, I can't say, I can't predict who's going to be around for 3 years from now. I think it's more to do with building a kind of a style of player or a style of team. You know, yeah. I'm just looking at that team here. I'm looking at it. Leno, Socrates. No, that's the wrong one. That was another game that we lost 5-1.
Oh, well, good. I'm sorry.
Okay, so here's the team that lost that day. Cech, Koscielny, Holding, Monreal, Bellerin, Ramsey, Ozil, the Ox, Xhaka, Sanchez, and Welbeck on the bench. Ospina, Mustafi, Kolasinac, Coquelin, your favorite. Lacazette, Giroud, and Walcott, you know?
So here's a funny thing. Add up, so none of them are at the club now. I like two of them, maybe the ones you named, just off the top of my head, maybe.
Xhaka, Ozil, Bellerin, obviously. And Hope. Yeah.
I mean, all the other ones gone. What did we net total for all those other players? Like, you know, 20 million? To 30 million. We got something for Theo. Right? We got nothing for Alexis.
We got 20 for Theo. Welbeck was free.
Quick shout out to Stacy, who finds me handsome. Someone's wife likes me, and it's not my wife. So all the best. All right, you got to go. I kept you here way too long. Can we do one quick Schadenfreude thing that I think is kind of
fun?
Yeah. I got to get the branding off the screen because you can't see anything this way. Come on, Elliot. Here we go. Don't worry. It'll all be gone soon. There we go. And the banner. That's going to go too. There we go. Breaking. Tammy Abraham, Ben Chilwell, and Jadon Sancho will miss England's game against Wales as the FA continues to investigate into Abraham's surprise birthday party.
What surprise birthday party was this? What have I missed here?
I mean, did the players not realize that they make a living playing football, and if they give each other COVID, they will not be able to do it anymore? Like, isn't there a sense of self-preservation that goes along with this?
I don't know. You know what I did? I just finished reading Nicholas Bentner's book.
Is that good? Because it's got to be entertaining.
It is very on brand. Let me say that. It's 100% Nicholas Bentner, and I actually interviewed Nicholas Bentner today, so that'll be out during the week.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous. You didn't ask about the taxi incident, though, I assume.
I didn't really ask about the taxi incident, no. But I sort of, there's a very strong theme in the book. There's a lot of partying going on.
Fair enough. When will that interview be out?
Hopefully on Wednesday. Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, that's exciting. Well, I just really appreciate you being here, and I hope that you have I was going to say a quiet rest of the evening. Obviously, I don't hope you have a quiet rest of the evening. I hope that you have an exciting rest of the evening.
Yeah, we've got some stuff to do on the live blog, hopefully, and some stories to publish. And, hopefully we'll get that signing over the line and we can feel about. How are you feeling? Let me just ask you before I go. How are you feeling about Partey coming in?
Who cares about me? All right. Well, I'm going to read you what Scott Willis said, and then I will build on it. This is Scott, _that_crab. This is statement for the live stream. You can read my statement. I think this has the potential to be a huge mistake. I can imagine the headlines in 2 years about how, despite interest, Arsenal were unable to find a team willing to take Partey on loan, and Arsenal will keep him for another season. People have very different opinions about what prime is, and part of the reason is that different players hit their prime at different times. You look at Aubameyang, and he still looks like he is in the absolute middle of his prime. And you look at Paul Pogba, who's 27, and he looks like he can't get around the pitch the same way. And the thing that worries me a little bit is the analytics guys will tell you that Partey's coming off a down season this past season. And I watched some footage of him, and it looked like he wasn't moving as freely. So that's my non-expert analysis. I think I would say it this way. I think Partey makes us better right now. If the rumored wages are true, I think this a 50 million pound fee or 50 euro, is it euros or pounds? 50 million.
50 million euros, I think. Yeah.
50 million euros on a 27-year-old deep-lying midfielder who does a lot of things that we can probably get by doing, in my estimation, on a long-term contract that's very expensive, is potentially resources that could have strengthened the squad in ways that would have had more of an impact now and had a longer-term viability for us. I felt that Aouar, just for example, is someone we could have gotten for a relatively similar amount of money, who addresses a role I think we need a bit more, and who is 22, and so theoretically will not only just improve, but he will, in theory, grow in asset value. And then if he doesn't want to be with us or we can't get him to re-sign or whatever, you're not looking to just offload him, but you get a significant chunk of money back so you can reload. I think right now, day one, Thomas Partey will be good. And my hope is that he makes us better day one. It is a challenge for me to know whether we will struggle with this going forward. And, Clive makes the point, Fernandinho was 28 when City bought him. Two things with City. One, they have unlimited resources, right? So they can get it wrong and recover. It's not a problem for them. Like they gave the Guendouzi treatment to Leroy Sané, right? Because they don't care. They can afford to do that. The thing is also, it's not that he will definitely fail. I'm not saying he will fail. I think he will be good. Whether or not it's a platform that we can build on remains to be seen. And that, for me, is going to come down to whether he stays at a very high level for the duration of this contract. I mean, the Willian move is the same kind of thing. I think the early returns are on Willian. As I watch him, he doesn't seem to have that burst. So hopefully he can be technical and intelligent and add something else. That's where I am. I like the player. I think he makes us better right now. I worry that as a squad building strategy, it may not leave us a lot of room to operate, if that makes sense. Because we finished 8th last season. We're trying to get into the top 4, hopefully on a trajectory to eventually be challenging for a title. If that happens 3-4 seasons from now, it's unlikely Partey will be part of that. So will we be able to build off what we've done here? I guess that's
maybe,
my only.
I mean, maybe his role is something that will become important, and we find a player to replace that. I mean, he's only 27. Willian is 32, so I understand the concerns. Partey's 27. I think we need sometimes just to stop catastrophizing a little bit about, the age of a player.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not Logan's Run, They don't get to 30 and then get put out of their misery, It's
a shame, all downhill from there.
I know. Yeah, I mean, look, that's not to say there aren't players out there who should be put out of their misery well before they get to 30, but that's a different thing. He is only 27. I think, we've signed players of that age before, who've gone on to do amazing things at the club. Ian Wright's a special one, I know, but he was 28 when he signed for Arsenal. Robert Pires was 26, something like that, when he signed, So I don't worry about that. I think we do have things to build for the future, no question. But I also think that we have got improvements to make right now that are just as important to where we need to go and how we're going to get there. And that's where I think I am with this signing. I see
it's better. And like at one level, I'm not an executive. I don't, it's not my job to plan out Arsenal's future and where the resources go. And so he makes us better now. That's good, right?
Yeah, exactly. And let's see what he does on the pitch as well. How about that? It's good.
Yeah, and by the way, I am excited. I mean, look, setting aside whatever, overthink that I do about squad building and long-term analysis and all that, I am very excited that we got him and that he's here. And I'm looking forward to watching him. And I'm looking forward to being outraged about him not starting day one right after the international break. That's how excited I am that he's here. Final question for you. True Gunnar asked, Jack Wilshere had his contract terminated at West Ham. Should we pick him up on a free? He could give us 5 minutes in a... That's
a shame, isn't it? Why is True Gunnar? True Gunnar is $4.99. Does that mean we can buy him for $4.99?
Yeah. He's the test
before 11 o'clock tonight.
Yeah. I mean, you got a feel for Jack, though, right?
Yeah, it's sad. It really is sad because he was an extremely talented footballer whose career, for various reasons didn't pan out the way that it should have, for Arsenal or for England or for West Ham as well. And it's a real shame because he's still a young guy. I mean, how old is Jack? 28? Something like that. You know?
Yeah, it's getting there.
So he's still a fairly young guy. And, it's hard not to think this could be the beginning of the end for him. If West Ham are willing to just let him go for nothing just to get him off the books, that doesn't really augur well. So good luck to him. Good luck.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, hey, thanks so much, Andrew. I really appreciate it. I kept you a bit longer.
Pleasure. And thanks to everyone for watching. And I'll catch you soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Catch you soon. Andrew's Arseblog. You know that. All right, bud. Talk to you soon.
See you later. Bye.
All right. So that's it from Andrew. So what we're going to do right now, Tim Stillman is up next. And if you are willing to hang with me, we will. Which way does this go? Which way do I go? I go there. Perfect. Okay, that'll work. What we're going to do is we're going to take your questions. Let's have a little while here of just kind of getting into your questions and keeping this going. I don't know that there's a lot of news getting ready to break. The latest looks like Thomas Partey might wear the number 5 shirt at Arsenal, according to Twitter rumors, and that is Socrates' number. So are we stripping Socrates of that number? Is he going to, sometimes in American sports, the players will pay each other for their numbers, which is kind of interesting. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that sometimes can happen. So let's go ahead and keep this going. We're going to switch to that to just make a little more room on the screen so it's not so unpleasant to look at. So first question. I think this is an interesting one, actually. Will any American clubs take Jack? It is interesting. I could see Wilshere coming to America and playing in the MLS. The only thing is, can he pass a medical? I wonder if the reason they terminated his contract, and I wonder what it takes to terminate a contract and what the clauses were. But I do wonder if he just may be broken. And it is sad because, I think I'm not even going to tell you who's on the back of this shirt because you'll hate me. But I have a Wilshere shirt upstairs, and I definitely would like to see him at least be able to finish his career with some kind of success. So who is the teenage striker we signed? Great question, Walker. And I actually have a message from someone in Sweden, I believe is where he's from. So we can go to that message. And his name is Nikolaj Dus Moller, regarding the Swedish 18-year-old striker. This is from Malmo, who we have played in international competition before, in European competition. 430,000 pound transfer. This is translated from an interview some months ago where he describes himself thusly. I play with few touches. Help the team. Good in the air. Strong. Never lose duels. Faced away from goal. Difficult to take the ball from. He's 194 centimeters. I don't know what that is in inches, but it's tall. And in Bologna, where he was for 1.5 years, they called him Ibra, as he had a good technique for being tall. So either we have the next Andy Carroll or we have the next Ibrahimovic. And I can assure you, I hope it is more the latter than the former. As a reminder, we are taking your questions, but Tim Stillman is up next. He will be on very shortly. So that is greatly appreciated for Tim to come bail me out. But what we're going to do now is take more of your questions. So keep them coming and we'll keep it going. So is Saliba to... well, that's not the one I was trying to click on. Sorry. There we go. Is Saliba Leeds on loan better for his long-term development than keeping him and playing cup games? Hopefully not Fulham. I mean, first of all, the Chambers to Fulham deal worked out great, although Chambers wound up playing a lot in midfield, which I think is interesting. And what I would say with the Saliba loan is that the extent to which we have an anxiety about this is kind of weird to me. We know that teenage center backs don't play a lot. They have very rarely played. Oh, good update here. 195 centimeters, 6'6". So we have signed an 18-year-old who is 6'6". I'm not 6'6" on a ladder. So if he's 6'6" at 18, he could grow to what, like 6'9"? Could we just stand him in front of the goal and let Pepe drop balls on his head for corner kicks? That could work. Yeah, I mean, I think that the Saliba loan is one that we should be supportive of, because if he's not going to be a starter for us in teenage years, he's gone through a personal tragedy with the passing of his mother, and he has a big adaptation to go through and acclimation. If he can stay in England, I think it helps. I can understand if he doesn't want to, but if he can stay in England and acclimatize in a slightly lower pressure environment and get more minutes, I'm all for it, because first of all, we have, and I know this is breaking news, all the central defenders. We have them all. Mustafi, Socrates, Mavropanos, Mari, Gabriel, Louise, Holding, Chambers. We just signed this guy, Rekic, I think, who's a center back also. We have all of them. So we don't need him right now, and I realize some of those won't play right now. But yeah, so I think this is good, okay? What is your hair product of choice? So candidly, I don't shower much. The problem with the pandemic is people don't see me, although I know people are seeing me right now, and not showering. I discovered something called dry shampoo. You just spray the stuff in your hair, and it kind of like makes it so it doesn't look like you haven't showered in ages. But yeah, it's starting to lose its effectiveness there. Oh boy, I don't want to do it. I'm sorry. It was the one that I had. If you could see who the back of that shirt was, I apologize. I know. Yeah. Yep. I know. What can you do? All right. Is Arteta chopping and changing too much in terms of player starts? So this is an interesting thing, and I won for the podcast in terms of how, oh gosh, here it comes. Traitor. Shame. Ew. Disgrace. Okay. I know. I get it. It's gross. What do you want me to do? I had the shirt. I'm not sorry enough. I promise I am sorry enough. I promise I'm sorry enough. Yeah, I think in terms of Arteta chopping and changing, like, I understand why he's doing it. There was no preseason, and that makes it hard to really know what he's trying to zero in on. We've also had a weird combination of big games and small games. I do think that Ceballos came back late. I think he's going to be more of a regular now. Willian was here, and I think it was easy to just get him in. I think Pepe now will come in. A big part of this is going to come down to whether that back four formation that we saw for part of the Sheffield United game stays the formation that we choose. So that will be big. This is a good one. Rebecca Dalgarno says, how much would you pay to get Ceballos on a permanent deal next summer? I think the Ceballos situation is fascinating because this is a player that I think we are all starting to really see has another level. I know obviously he's sort of been a darling of mine. And I hope that he just continues to develop. And I think he will continue to develop for us. What is the optimal scenario with Ceballos? Like, ask yourself this. What's the optimal scenario? Is the optimal scenario he goes absolutely nuclear this season and he's just amazing and he and Partey form this phenomenal partnership? Odds are he's going back to Madrid after that. I mean, he'd want to go to Madrid, obviously. And that's no discredit to him. That's his club. And if he's amazing, they're just going to take him back. To buy him from them under that circumstance would be, I can't even imagine what price. If he's just good enough that we're pretty encouraged, but Madrid's not encouraged enough to take him back, do we want to invest in him? I think maybe, but then do you put big money into the central midfield again? We don't really have anyone to play that role. That's the interesting thing. Let's say Ceballos is good and Partey's good and Ceballos leaves in the summer. Shaq is probably a guy we're going to be moving on from. El Nenny's a guy we're going to be moving on from. We don't have Guendouzi. He'll probably go next summer on a permanent deal. Maybe Willock is for that role. Maybe Maitland-Niles. I think that's a real stretch in both cases. So I don't know. I don't know how we fix midfield if we can't hold on to Ceballos. And I'd be very curious to see how that shakes out. By the way, I just want to remind everybody, while we are taking your questions, but Tim Stillman is up next. I am going to get on, I think, what you call the blower. And I'm going to say to Tim, just say when, because he is going to be ready here any moment. So Tim Stillman up next. And I'm even going to broadcast that very fact to everybody everywhere and let them know that next up is Stilberto. I apologize for trying to multitask while you all are here, but we're going to continue on with your questions, I assure you. So let's do some additional questions. How's that sound? So back to taking your questions. And I apologize for that little brief interruption. How about this one? ESR to fill a void. I'd love to get people's opinions on this. I think there's a lot of excitement for ESR, a lot of excitement for him to come in. And I think a lot of people thought he could play the role that Willian played against Sheffield United in the second half. So, that is something that I think is interesting with ESR, because there's been no integration of him at all and no indication that we're going to use him at all. And I'd really be curious, what he would do with ESR. I would see a Partey, Ceballos, ESR midfield 3. If we see it at all, I think we'll see ESR come in. I should probably stop saying ESR. I think we'd see him come in probably for Europa League group stage. Alana Corrigan, I clicked on the question without reading it, so let's hope it's good. I don't have a question. I just want to say well done. Thanks to Elliot for organizing this and keeping it right. Oh, thank you, Alana. That's really sweet. I clicked without seeing it, so that was scary, and I'm glad that it worked out being nice, so thank you for that. Related to ESR, Jamie Curtis says he's been injured a lot. Yep, again, Finn Ireland saying he's been injured a lot. So, yeah, that is a problem. And you know what? I'm going to create a banner to keep you all here. Here's the banner that I'm going to keep you with. I'm going to say, Tim Stillman up in 5 minutes. Not even 5 minutes now, because he gave it. Tim Stillman is up in 2 minutes. Up in 2 minutes. So you only have to sit around here with me for Tim in 2 minutes. Without Tim for 2 minutes. With news breaking of JW terminating his contract at West Ham, would you take him on a pay-as-you-play contract? I love Jackie Wilshere. I have one of his shirts. I probably should be wearing that instead of the Van Persie one, and I apologize for that again. You know, I would not take Jack back. I don't think we need a player who West Ham terminated his contract just to be free of him. So, you know, I just don't think you can rely on. Love your passion, but your opinions are so wrong and everything. But see, that's the whole thing about a dynamic on a podcast. If you've got people whose opinions are constantly right without someone whose opinions are constantly wrong to debate them with, what have you got? You've got nothing. So, you know, I think that is basically what you got. Let's see. Yo, Elliot, who are we booting from the PL squad? 2 players over. This is the talking point that is weird up enough. We can't register all the players we have for the Premier League. We have to register our team, I think, tomorrow. And so the question is, like, what are we going to do with these players? I imagine Mesut Ozil is not going to be registered. I know it sounds crazy, your most expensive player, but I don't see what we do. You can't register Ozil. Okay, so that's one. Who else can we not register? I guess Socrates. Yep, that's another one. Socrates is gone. Don't register him. Who else? Saliba is so weirdly. Saliba next season. This is interesting. Next season, Saliba will qualify as homegrown. So if it's just the 2, is it just the 2 that we have to not register? Ozil and Saliba? Because I think if that's the case, that would be interesting. All right, let's go to this one. This is the big question, of course, everybody has. And again, we are 2 minutes away from Tim Stillman, Stillberto joining to go over the window. And let's see, no updates that I see right now. So I think this window is tick-tocking down to a very quiet conclusion. Can we win the league this season? I got to say, can we win the league this season? The Europa League? I think we could win the Europa League. The League, I don't think so. I think, you know, ultimately City and Liverpool will right the ship and they're going to get into the mid-80s points-wise, right? Like low 80s. We finished, were we high 50s last season? We're not going to make up that ground. Do I think we will be better with a whole season of Arteta? I think we will. We are not going to make up, 25-ish points or so. I think the good news is if Ole stays and Lampard stays at Chelsea and United, I think they will underperform their talent. United clearly have problems. They didn't address them. I don't see how Cavani addresses that. So can we finish above them? I think we can. I don't think Jose will keep the Spurs train on the rails no matter what they just did at the weekend. And the fact that, candidly, like their squad looks a little bit tasty, depending on whether Bale plays at all. I think we can get past them. Everton and Leicester are a problem. Do we need to talk about Everton and Leicester? I mean, we may need to. Jonathan Hughes, by the way, amazing stuff, Elliot, and the AV team. Love all your content. Love being a patron. Keep up the amazing work. No, I love you. Thank you. And I know we always say it on the pod that we love you, but we do love you. And like sharing this day together and having this fun together has been awesome. Can't thank Andrew enough for joining, Clive and Paul, and Tim is about to be on, and we'll carry it on just a little bit longer here. So I just really thank you guys. This is great. And gals, obviously. So Louis Asylum says Leicester aren't a problem. Maybe not. Do Everton and Leicester have a shot at winning the league? Leicester did win the league, so no, they can't do that again. Everton, we definitely suffer from recency bias, right? That is a thing that exists. Everton are off to a fantastic start. Will they keep it up? I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a player I didn't particularly rate, and Clive did, and there's more evidence of my opinion sucking and his being good. I think he's really good. And Richarlison is excellent. And Maybe James has something to offer that, people didn't really expect. They're building an interesting team. Iwobi was good for them at the weekend, although a player that I think they were, he's a player that they were willing to part with. I don't know if I think Sigurdsson is super helpful for them, but they're stuck with him from a past deal. That's an interesting team. I think the thing that we're seeing with the league generally is, whether it's Wolves or Leicester or Everton, there's enough quality in those teams that if things break for them, they can be better than we hoped. Pickford is awful, though. That is true. And, I know I had my 2 refrigerators comment on the podcast about how backup keeper is not super important. Liverpool certainly paid the price for that at the weekend, and quite hilariously so. So that's definitely interesting. This is a great one. If there's one player in the Premier League you could grab for free to join Arsenal, who would that be? It has to be Kevin De Bruyne, right? Hang on. Elliot, get Tim on. Okay, let me see if he's ready. I'll just say, Tim, just click the link when you're ready. He should be here in seconds as he is typing. So, yep, he says he's just coming in now, everybody. So Tim Stillman getting ready to join, and we can go back to, that means, here he comes. He's coming on, everybody. So I am getting Tim on. Yeah. Oh, someone says Van Dijk. You can't do Van Dijk. We got too many center backs. It's Kevin De Bruyne, right? You got to have Kevin De Bruyne. Elliot, you guys, great job. Thanks. All right. Well, stick around. Don't go anywhere because Tim is joining. He's here. I'm going to go back to the, let's see, branding stuff. Here we go. Default. Boom. Okay. And banners. What do we want to say? Partey time. Boom. Ready? Here we go. Add to stream. Bang. There he is. The one, the only Tim Stillman. You can find him on Twitter at Stillman. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello,
indeed.
everyone else as well who's watching.
Who? Oh, hi, Mom. She's watching. Have you been keeping up with any of this nonsense? I assume not.
Yeah, what, the stream or just like the transfer deadline day?
Oh.
No, not the stream, unfortunately. I've been doing some work. So actually, just before I came on, I literally just went on a quick live blog to see if there were any updates. But it looks like it's basically done, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
party,
really quiet. Let me ask you this. We'll get to the party thing. Let's summarize the window for a minute on some of the outgoings and some of the things that didn't happen. So what are your thoughts on things like I don't think Socrates is going. I don't think Cole is going. Gwen is out on loan. Ozil obviously is the Ozil situation. Lacazette sticking around. Some of the players that we thought might have been shifted. We turned down a firm bid for Maitland-Niles, but that's old news. Incomings aside, what's your feeling in terms of our not moving on from some players, not being able to?
It's obviously not great because we got rid of so few of them. And in fact, probably with Martinez, we kind of had to take a bit. I mean, I think that was also about the desire of the player, but we kind of had to take a bid for someone that we probably really would have rather kept. But I'm kind of all right with that decision. But I'm not surprised just because of the market. I don't know. Everyone gets very excited about transfers, and understandably, I do as well. But there is a situation going on economically, and when even PSG are looking to do loan deals, then there's really like a problem, and particularly this late in the window, and anyone who's still shopping this late in the window is basically a bit desperate, a bit cash strapped. That's not just in the Premier League, that's across Europe. So I always kind of felt, to be honest, I thought we might get money for one of them. I did think that someone like Guendouzi might turn up some money, but ultimately, like, the only clubs who in ordinary times would be able to pay 20, 30, 40, whatever for Guendouzi, they're just not able to at the moment. There are only about 4 clubs in the world at the moment who can put down that kind of money, particularly at the end of the window. And like the transfer market it's an organism, right? Everything depends on everything else. So if people around you aren't able to buy, nobody's generating any money themselves. So it it makes sense. As much as I didn't think we'd get rid of all of them by any means. I really thought we'd be for want of a better phrase, stuck with a lot of them, to be honest, particularly those with 1 year left on their deals, because why would you go and spend money on Mustafi when, if you really want him, you get him for free next year and not injured, possibly. So it's kind of disappointing disappointing, but not a massive surprise. However, I would be really surprised to see someone like Socrates not even go on loan. I've been thinking for the last couple of weeks what will probably happen, not just at Arsenal, but everywhere on the last day, is loads of loan deals will happen because people will just say, look, we just need the wages out of here.
Yeah.
But then maybe with Socrates, that's not as big as someone like Torreira, for example. I don't know what wages they're on, but disappointing, but not overly surprised, to be honest. And sorry to make this the longest answer in the world. Look around, it's happening at other clubs as well. Manchester United can't get rid of Lingard, Jones, Bailly, all of these players they'd love to get rid of, can't do it. And same for us.
Don't worry, they've got Cavani. They've fixed everything. Do we have any news on Torreira? I haven't seen anything.
No, I saw something earlier, and I really don't know how true this is. And it would kind of, as an Arsenal fan, it'd be really funny if it was true. Although it would probably mean that Atletico would never do business with us again. But did you see that story about Arsenal pulling the loan deal?
Yeah. Oh no, not pulling the loan. No, that I didn't. I saw the one about how we took Thomas Partey from them without ever actually contacting them at all whatsoever.
So that's true, because you don't have to in Spain. People might remember before Manchester United actually signed Ander Herrera, I think this is in about 2013, there was this really big kind of scandal on deadline day when some lawyers went to the La Liga offices to trigger Ander Herrera's release clause, and Manchester United basically said that these lawyers are not acting on our behalf. We've resolved not to trigger it. So basically these three complete imposters tried to buy Ander Herrera because that's the thing in Spain. If you trigger the release clause, you don't have to tell the club. But no, the story that went round, and I was dubious about it because it wasn't coming from any source I recognised, was that what Arsenal had done is, having activated the release clause for Partey, they'd then said to Atleti, right, you're about to get £45 million from us, so no more loan deal for Torreira, and if you want him, you're going to have to pay for him. And obviously doing that in the last hours of the window, when you're just taking someone who kind of plays Torreira's position, would be, that would be, that would be a big dog move, but I'm not sure that that's actually true, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is interesting because, like, well, let's answer kneecaps. Oh, I get it, kneecaps, and question there, and then I want to ask you something about Torreira, and we'll get to the Partey stuff. What do you rate the window out of 10, given the circumstances? And maybe as you answer that, what would have bumped it up for you from whatever you, unless you picked 10, which I don't think you're going to pick 10. What do you rate it out of 10?
So, okay, I'm going to rate this on the basis of the business that I think Arsenal wanted to do, because there are some, and I'm throwing Cedric and Mari in here because we did sign them permanently. And I agree with the Mari deal. Mari deal's fine with me. I know there's some questions about, well, we signed Gabriel, but I think Arteta is insistent he wants a left footer in the centre of defence. So yes, buy two of them, because one of them can't play every game. And it seems relatively obvious to me when you buy one for 22 million and one for 10 million, you know what's happening there, right? One's first choice, one's backup. That's fine with me. The Cedric deal, I don't think we need to go over why I think that's such a bust, and still really is. And I don't think that's hindsight. You and I, Elliot, were always very, very dubious about that one.
Not very vocal, but very dubious.
So I'm going to kind of put aside some of my doubts about some of the players and basically I think Arsenal drew up a list of positions and players, and I think by the looks of it, they've got most of it done in terms of incomings. They wanted those two left-footed central defenders. Okay, Cedric, they thought that Maitland-Niles was going to go, so if that had happened, it would make more sense. They wanted Willian, whether we agree with that or not. I think Willian's a decent signing. I'm not sure I like him as absolute lock first choice on the right wing, and I'm not sure I like it on a 3-year deal, but fine. Partey, I don't know enough about. I do have concerns about the deal, to be honest, given the size of the fee, the age of the player, what I think some very well-placed people in the stats community are saying, and based on the record of those people in the stats community, who I think generally tend to get these things quite right. And I still wonder if we're panicking a little bit, and that's something we've done many, many times. And I'll be honest with you, yesterday, when people got very angry with me on Twitter for kind of saying, if you haven't got money, you can't buy. If you haven't got the money to buy someone, you can't buy them.
I got to back you up because you said something that doesn't really register for me, and I hate to stop you when you're in the middle of a really good thought. But did you say that people got angry on Twitter?
Yeah, about transfers as well.
Fine, yeah, go ahead.
But I actually, so in a way, I was not pleased. That's not the right word, but I was a little bit reassured when I heard about the Aouar thing, because I thought, okay, what we're doing here is and I know people don't. I understand completely why people don't like the phrase "keeping our powder dry," because it's something we did a bit too much, maybe, in kind of mid-Wenger era. But I kind of thought to myself, look, there's no rule that says you have to spend money all in one transfer market. Like, there is another one in 12 weeks time, and then there's another one next summer. And I really thought, well, we talk all the time about Liverpool, right, and the deals they do, but look at one of the crucial things Liverpool do is they walk away. They walked away from Van Dijk a couple of times, and they waited, and they said, okay, all right, we'll come back next year. And they do that with sales as well. They did that with Coutinho. They made Barcelona wait, and they made them up the money. And I really thought when I heard that the Aouar deal was kaput, I thought, maybe Arsenal are learning a lesson here, and maybe they're thinking, let's not do that thing again where we just panic buy someone. And look, it's clear we've wanted Partey for a while, so I'm not sure I'm calling it a panic buy, and maybe our plan was always to kind of keep that one, simmering on the windowsill until deadline day. But there is a little nagging doubt in the back of my mind that's going, are we just doing this, like throwing everything on the poker table, and hoping it comes up for us? So anyway, let me answer the damn question. Just keep going. And my good friend Ricky put up incoming 8 out of 10, outgoings 2 out of 10. And I would not disagree with that. Really, I think the thing that does enthuse me about this transfer market, and I've said it before, is I think Arsenal did the low-hanging fruit early, and they left themselves time and space to do the difficult deal, like the Thomas Partey deal. It looks like they're going to do. So they got Willian done, easy deal, free transfer. We know the agent like the back of our hand. Brilliant. Cedric, Mari, they were already there. Gabriel got that done nice and early. And then I think Arsenal left themselves a lot of time with this situation, whereas I think in the past we've let the easy deals drag on too long and given ourselves too much to do. Whereas this time, yes, this deal for Partey is going down to the wire, but we gave ourselves the space to do it because we weren't worrying about, we weren't dragging out Gabriel, another 3 weeks to try and get the price down by 25p or whatever. So I'm kind of enthused in that respect. Yeah, outgoings, you can't, you can't really give that much more than a 2 or a 3 out of 10. Unfortunately, I think we did the right thing with Martinez. But here's a question I'm going to ask you, Elliot, because it's never good. because I'm talking a lot, but I figure you've been on the air for about 3 hours now. So
just for 3 hours. So yeah.
But here's a question I was thinking of earlier. Would you, because it sounds like we were offered 20 million for Maitland-Niles beginning of the window. Yeah. Would you, at that, do we agree that if we'd have taken that, we'd have been able to get Aouar over the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think our road is paved with the mistakes of sales we didn't make, the fear of sales. We didn't sell Alexis, we didn't sell Ramsey, we didn't sell Ozil, we didn't sell Maitland-Niles, and we can go on. And yeah, the Gnabry thing sticks out as an obvious case of like, holy shit, we blew it. That's an extraordinary situation given the timing of the knee injury he had and the terror. His die was cast when we sent him to Tony Pulis's West Brom on loan. But like, yeah, Tim, like, yes, we should have sold Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and not because he's not good. Like, this is the thing. You've asked me something that leads me to a point that I want to make. People only ever want to sell the bad players. I've got really bad news. Nobody wants to buy the bad players. Like, I want to sell them to. I want to sell Mustafi, and I want to sell Sokratis, and I want to sell Kolasinac, and yeah, of course. But like, nobody wanted to sell Martinez. That summarizes Arsenal to me in a nutshell. We have an excellent first goalkeeper. We're strapped for cash. We want to get deals done. And we couldn't even convince ourselves and each other that we should move on our backup keeper for $20 million, who 6 months ago would have been worth $1 million. That, you know what that's called? That's called bite your hand off, rub your four-leaf clover, whatever you do to a four-leaf clover, because you got lucky. And like Ainsley Maitland-Niles had to be sold, not because he's not good, because he is good and somebody wants to pay money for him. And Hector Bellerin is good. And we gave Cedric money. Maybe we shouldn't have given Cedric money. Gosh, I wonder.
But we did.
But we did. So you have to sell Maitland-Niles. And why? Because you sell Martinez, even though it's a bitter pill to swallow, and you sell Maitland-Niles, even though it's a bitter pill to swallow, and you wrap yourself in the warm comfort of Partey and Aouar coming in and making your team better and better for the long term. And you maybe sell guys you kind of would rather keep. Nobody wanted Alexis Sanchez to leave, but would you take $50 million for him now instead of the Mkhitaryan swap? Nobody wanted Ramsey to leave. Would you take having sold Ramsey for $50 million instead of Ramsey leaving for free at the end of Emery's first wasted season? Of course. Now, I get that that's hindsight, but I fear, Tim, that we walk into these hindsight situations going, you know, the bad mistake we made back there? Well, never. This isn't that. This is a different thing. And then we're like, oh no, that was that thing. You know what I mean? Quick thanks to Thomas. Appreciate it, Thomas. Good job to you. And Aouar next window. I would take that. Absolutely. Yeah,
we can always revisit it.
Yeah, exactly. And I look, I get it. You know, when we did the Ozil deal, if you remember, everything had to fall right into place at the last minute, and it did. And boom, we got Ozil from Real Madrid. And they were easy to work with, and it helped get it done. And had he not come, that window was shaping up. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you remember everything. So people were losing it, and that turned everything. We tried to go right to the wire with Olas, and he's notoriously difficult, and he's a son of a bitch. And like, who knows? Maybe he dripped honey in Aouar's ear and said, "Look, you stay with us in a year, and I'll be packing you off to Barca or Real Madrid next summer." You know, and maybe there's some of that. I don't know. I guess what I would say is that, like, with our purchases, it's not my job to know if I'm right or wrong. I got to trust the club. I have opinions, of course. With our sales, I think the idea that the only players you sell are the bad players is obviously silly. You know, and you look at Liverpool getting 23 million for Brewster or whatever. There's a halo effect there, as I mentioned, with the fact that they've won the title and all their players look more desirable. I get that. We don't have that. So we're going to have to sell some players that are on the fringe of our team that have value to bring in players that really move the needle for us. Is that a long enough, ranty enough answer for that question?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and you know, I listened to the instant. It was weird, actually. I listened to the instant reaction pod earlier for the Sheffield United game, and it just so happened that you made some points that I tweeted a couple of hours before listening. But you know, I was tweeting specifically about like the Aubameyang playing up front thing, and I was basically saying exactly what you and Paul had talked about, which is at the moment the squad's still a bit unbalanced, and so we have this choice in some of these games between being a bit unbalanced but having lots of high-end product guys on the pitch, or being nice and balanced and taking two shots, and being, you know, nice and tight and structured and not giving much away but not doing anything either. And I think we've got to go like a little bit more horses for courses and say, Sheffield United at home, do you know what? Let's just be a bit unbalanced. It's fine. And just like fucking hit them with Pepe and Saka and Willian and Aubameyang, and just get them all on the pitch. And then maybe when you go to Manchester City away, you know, you put a couple of those guys on the bench and you play Maitland-Niles or something. That's kind of fine. And I think one of the things, you know, I was talking about Lacazette, for example, and the overvaluing that we do now of intermediate value attributes. So it's like, well, if we play Aubameyang up front, who's going to hold the ball up on the halfway line? And it's like, well, you know what? That's a nice attribute. That's good. That is good. Like, I'm not being, you know, I hope I'm not being kind of dismissive, but it's not as good as Aubameyang in the penalty area. It's like, did you ever see the movie Battle Royale? The Japanese movie, right?
Yep.
For people who don't know, it's a dystopian movie set in the future where teenagers have become too unruly and they try and like kill a lot of them off, and they send them to an island. They send this class of teenagers to an island, and you know, they give them exploding collars, and they basically say it's all against all, and only one person standing at the end wins. And what happens is they give them weapons as they come into the island, and the weapons range from bazookas and crossbows to like a spatula. Okay. and it's the same with footballers, right? Like we talk about superpowers all the time. Some guys have spatulas. Spatulas are good. Spatulas are useful. Some guys have whisks. Whisks are great if you need a whisk. Some guys have bazookas. And, you know, sometimes you've just got to get as many bazookas as you can into the team. Shotguns, bazookas, rifles, you know, and so I've tortured this analogy too much now, but yeah, so it's you know, it's just that kind of let's start hanging our hats on things that really make a difference. And so with Maitland-Niles, I really like Maitland-Niles. It'd have been a wrench to let him go, but if Aouar pushes the needle that much more, you do it. You do it.
And you know what the Lacazette has good hold up play thing reminds me of, and I mean you could probably guess before I even say it, but it reminds me of the Olivier Giroud is good at defensive headers. You know what I mean? And like there are players that have qualities that are good qualities, but to your point, they are not good enough. There's the one superpower that you're supposed to have, and in Aubameyang's case, it's running into great positions and scoring goals. And there's literally nothing more important than that in all of football. You know, and to the point about sales, I mean, a couple of good points that were brought up. The Oxlade-Chamberlain sale wound up being a really good sale for us. The Iwobi sale, phenomenal sale. Both good players, both players that we were probably kind of sad to see go at the time, but phenomenal sales. They just were.
And you know what I like about those sales as well is I've been reassured by both of them because they're both still the same player.
Yeah.
So it reassures me about some of our, because I worried, for example, about Chamberlain going to Liverpool and exploding. He's the same player there as he was with us. Good some games.
Sorry. I gotta cut in, Tim, because breaking news is what this is all about, and we do have some breaking news, and so we're going to go tortuously into the screen share, and there it is. Lucas Torreira to Atletico Madrid. Here we go. Paperwork's just signed between the two clubs after medicals completed days ago. He joins Atleti from Arsenal on loan as AFC sign Thomas. You want to give me your thoughts? Your thoughts on this development?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what's included in that loan agreement, whether there's an option or obligation to buy, because look, no one's got money at the moment. So there's going to be a lot of these kind of, look, we'll pay you next summer, when hopefully there will be some fans paying ticket money again. And again, maybe it's down to the desire of the player. What's really clear is he doesn't fit with Arteta's Arsenal. He probably never really did with Emery's Arsenal, although, you know, you can ask, did anyone fit with Emery's Arsenal, really? So it's kind of a shame because I think he's a good player. And he just didn't turn out to be quite what we wanted. Maybe he didn't settle in England either, which, you know, would be completely understandable. But to me, it's the shame about this, I guess, is that because of the market we're operating in, we're not seeing the illustration of the fact that these are really no risk buys. You buy a guy from 22 years old from Sampdoria, he's going to Atletico Madrid. That's not a step down, that's a step up. Yep. Unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it. And probably if we weren't in the middle of you know, so much economic uncertainty, we'd be getting our money back and more from Atleti. How much did they pay for Joao Felix last summer? Like, I don't know, 700 million or whatever. Like Atleti, they're in some money trouble at the moment. But you know, if all of this wasn't happening, then we'd probably be turning a profit on that. And he's going somewhere really good, so he's obviously still seen and scouted as a good player. And look, it doesn't take a massive leap of imagination to see Lucas Torreira playing for a Diego Simeone team. You know, that looks like it will be a good move for him. So hopefully, you know, next summer they'll go, yep, okay, we like a bit of that. Here's 30 million or 25 million or whatever. And that's the thing about buying players like this. It's kind of risk free. They at least retain value. Yeah. And you know, Torreira's barely played in the last year. He was injured. He was out the team. Had that weird period as a number 10. Almost like his concept album or something, and yet he's still going to Atleti, who challenge for the Champions League every year. You know, so it's the kind of buy that just completely makes sense, even though it didn't work. And that's the kind of thing we've got to do more of.
We really kind of screwed Atletico, which is pretty funny though, because like if you think about it, they get 50 million for Partey. They might say, let's go buy someone real good to replace him, but not knowing if we're going to trigger the clause until late in the deadline day and not even having the decency to contact them, which I think is awesome.
And
so,
maybe that's why we've left the Partey deal late. Maybe it's exactly that. Maybe if we slap 40, maybe if we meet that release clause, because again, we don't have to talk
Torreira, they go spend some money.
They go, oh no Torreira on loan. We've got money to spend now. So maybe that's behind it.
My ears are being pushed into the inside of my head at this point, by the way. This is incredibly, incredibly painful now. I just want everybody to know that as we cross the 3 hour and 15 minute mark of the live stream. Could use a shower and a shave. So, do you mind if we just step back from transfers just for one moment?
Oh, well, you know how much I love talking about transfers.
Perfect.
So,
Schadenfreude. Let's do it. Let's talk about the football from the weekend. I mean, how much were you able to enjoy these two absolutely ridiculous scorelines, especially given that Spurs was on the positive end of one of them? And do you take anything away from what happened to Liverpool, but especially United the weekend?
So how much was I able to enjoy it? Man U Spurs. So not that much for a couple of reasons. First of all, I completely missed the first half because I have to do like my post-match stuff for the Arsenal women's game, which was helpfully on at exactly the same time as the men's game. So went into that virtual press conference, wrote everything up, had completely forgot that the game was happening. And then at half time, I wrote everything up and then I turned it on and I was like, what? I think I remember it was 4-1 at that point. I was like, what has gone on there? And then so by then the second half was a bit of a procession and it was Spurs as well, so it's more difficult to enjoy when it's Spurs. But the aftermath, Patrice Evra's little meltdown on Sky Sports, enjoyed some of that, enjoyed the reaction.
Sensational. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Villa Liverpool. So I didn't watch it live. I was about to watch it live, but I kind of thought, because I was sat here, like, we don't have Sky on my TV at home. We only have it on my laptop. So I'm sitting where I'm sitting at the moment in the corner of the room. I'm about to watch it, but then it kind of strikes me that I haven't really, because I've been watching 2 Arsenal games and doing post-match and all of that, haven't really spent any time with my family during the day. So I was like, okay, all right. I'll watch match of the day later. I've missed like all the other games anyway. Didn't even see the Arsenal men's game properly. And then, all of a sudden, there's like within about 10 minutes of turning off and sitting down, it was like, oh, Villa are 4-1 up. What's going on? And then by the end, I was just like looking at my phone all the time, and there just seemed to be a goal every couple of minutes, and that was good. That was good fun. So I watched match of the day too on Sunday, and I kind of enjoyed all the highlights as a bit of a totality. But as for what it means for Liverpool, that it's a weird one, because all summer I've kind of thought that Liverpool won't win the league again. I thought that lockdown came at a horrible time for them, when they'd basically won the league and they were mowing through everyone. I mean, to be fair, they weren't in great form just before, when they lost that game to Watford and they went out the Champions League. But I think winning it so easily and so early, but then having to wait for it to, I really think that was bad for them psychologically. And we played them a couple of times in that, in that kind of process, and you could see it wasn't Liverpool. And I kind of think it's difficult to get that back when you lose it. But then I've seen them play, a few games this season. You think, oh, okay, they've got it back now. And in Jota, they've freshened their team up, and they get Thiago, and you think, okay, they're going to the next level now, in terms of their recruitment. But after this, it's weird, isn't it? Because I guess there was United in '97. They lost a couple of games 6-3 and 5-1 in the same week, and they still won the league. But do you know what I mean? When a team concedes 7 goals, you just think those teams don't win the league. But then again, I don't really see anyone else that can, unless Everton keep this up, which I don't think they will. It's a really, really strange one, and I wondered if they might buy a goalkeeper today, just because I know Alisson's supposed to be out for 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, you can lose the league. That's you know, that's there's an international break, so that's maybe 4 or 5 games. You can lose the league.
Yeah.
You know, in 4 or 5 games. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think the interesting thing is you would expect the team that would come for their crown would be City, would just burst right past them. But frankly, City look like they've got all kinds of problems. I can't explain what they are. Yeah, just before we start taking some questions, are you the kind of miserable bastard I am, where you are simultaneously laughing at Liverpool's misery and then quietly in the back of your mind being like, we should have had more of a go at them, or,
yeah,
not
maybe.
really?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's one of those interesting things, isn't it? When you go into a game like that at the beginning of the season and you've got the Liverpool aura, maybe this will happen maybe it'll be like, City last season, they lost that aura, I think. And by the time we played them in the semi-final, don't get me wrong, I didn't think we'd win, but by the time we played them in that semi-final, like if we a year earlier, I'd have just gone, not even sure I'm going to bother turning the TV on, and I'd have been predicting a 3-0 defeat. But I was thinking, well, we'll probably lose, but I think we can give them a game. Maybe if Liverpool away comes in 3-4 months' time and they've had a few of these results, then maybe. But you can only really go into it with the information that you've got at the time. But the thing I'm thinking of more, Elliot, is I know we've spoken on the pod over the last couple of seasons about, like, it being Manchester City and Liverpool's time, and what a smart club would do is build beyond that and wait for these, like this Liverpool team and this Man City team, to go late prime, where they have to have some turnover, where they have to rebuild, which is what City are doing at the moment. And we were saying, a smart team goes for that time. That's when, like, the smart team thinks, right, league's off the table for a couple of years, build for 3 years' time. And I guess what's disappointing is we're nowhere near that. Perhaps if this had happened, I don't know, again, like mid to late Wenger era, when we were finishing 4th and 3rd a lot, maybe then you'd think, okay, 1st and 2nd are on the table here. But when you've just finished 8th, it's not there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is difficult because the way Liverpool went at us and the way they pressed us in the first half of that league game, I read an interesting article before the season about why Liverpool would struggle this season and their physical level would drop, and how they wouldn't have it in them to be able to do what they do, that they don't, have a big squad and the way they play, and it's taking toll, and they played a lot of games, yada, yada. I did not see the same intensity against Villa that I saw against us in the league game. They did have that high line. I don't think we tested it enough. I think Willian was the wrong choice, but ultimately it was a different Liverpool that played us in the league than played Villa from what I saw. I think they'll be fine, but this high line they're trying, that's a high risk, high reward way to play, and they're going to lose some games because of it. So let's get to questions. We're going to take your questions as we start to wrap up this live stream, because I don't think anything else is going to happen. And I think we've got lives to live, given that we're pushing the 3.5 hour mark of this live stream. Alan Parent says, Balogun staying, does he get any playing time? So this is interesting too, because Balogun will be he's out of contract at the end of the season. He'll be able to sign a pre-agreement in January. He is reportedly not interested in a new contract. Very bright player some people rate ahead of Nketiah. But Nketiah has a future at the club, and it does not seem Balogun does. Would you play him and see if there's a way to bring him back into the fold, change his mind, find him a path? Or do you resign yourself to the fact that he's going and not waste that playing time on someone whose future we can no longer benefit from, either economically or on the pitch?
So I say this without ever really having seen him, without ever having seen him play. So I'm kind of going into it a bit blind, but the latter for me. I think probably with good reason, his mind's made up. And if anything, if we play him, he'll be like shop windowing himself, which he'd be perfectly entitled to do. But I think at the moment, let's see a little bit more what Nketiah's got. I don't know if Nketiah's got any more levels to go, but he's well integrated now. Whatever you think of his ceiling, nobody shits their pants when Nketiah starts a game. Like, nobody goes, oh my God, he's fairly reliable. He might drop a 5 out of 10 like he did yesterday, but he's not, he's fairly reliable. And I'd prefer to see if there was another level there. And also, I've said this many times about Nketiah, backup strikers are really difficult to find, and I think getting them from your academy is either getting them from your academy or having like another first team player who can play there, like we did with Alexis and like Tottenham have done with Son, like repurposing someone effectively. Those are the two best ways to do it. Otherwise, you know, it's very difficult to get a backup striker. So for this season, I'd stick with Nketiah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you know, we still have Martinelli. Is he a striker? I actually tend to think he is, but we'll see if the club agrees. And hopefully he'll come back strong and take some of that role. So I think it's just going to be the case with Balogun that we, for whatever reason, couldn't make that work for him, find him a path, get him a new deal. We're going to lose him for free. He's rated, but that's not end of the world stuff. Maybe it will be. We'll see. These all could be end of the world things. The world might just be ending. Look around. Smith KSA asks, what's your best 11 with Partey in? So, if you had to say, I guess I'll give you free swim formation wise, but let me ask it to you this way. What is your best 11 with Partey in? I'm asking it you that way because that's what the question is actually, but I'm also going to ask you, what is the 11 you think Arteta will go with, at least initially with Partey in? So they might be two subtly different answers.
Yeah, sure. So let's say, you know, vaguely a 4-3-3. Definitely Leno in goal. Definitely Bellerin and Tierney as fullbacks. At this stage, Luiz and Gabriel centre halves. I think that's all fairly self-explanatory. And then let's just say the front three: Pepe, Aubameyang, and see. I kind of want to say Saka, but I also want Saka as that third midfielder as well. So I wonder if like maybe Willian, Pepe, and Aubameyang. You know, and again, I'm completely writing Martinelli out of the equation here. Although I don't think him and Aubameyang really go together anyway. But then the midfield's really interesting because it kind of depends what we're buying Partey for. You'd think that. So apparently, from what I'm told, his superpower is ball carrying, right? I read something that he had 57 out of 64 in terms of ball carries in La Liga last season. Arsenal's most prolific ball carrier was Ceballos, and it was like 27. So it's like more than double the ball carrying of our current midfield. And it's just a case of where do we utilise that from? Are we utilising that from deep or as a number 8? You know, maybe a bit like the Diaby question we had. You know, is he a 6? Is he an 8? Because what I'm tempted to say is basically Ceballos, Partey, and Saka as the midfield three, and that might not work for every game. But I like Ceballos in deep midfield. I think his passing is good there. I think he's got really good intermediate value passing. He's really strong in interceptions. We saw that yesterday again as well. So, you know, I think there'd be a certain amount of horses for courses, but I really want Saka, Pepe, Aubameyang, and yeah, let's put Willian in there as well as the structure guy. I think when you've got three players like Pepe, Aubameyang, and Saka who are really good at scoring and or making goals, then having Willian in there as the structure guy kind of makes sense, and having that as a foursome could work. Probably wouldn't do it at like Man City away, for example. Where I might go back to that back three and have Maitland-Niles in that left wing back come left central midfield role. But I wonder, I think it'd be really interesting to see who is Partey to supplement Xhaka and Ceballos, or is he going to take one of them out? And if he takes one of them out at the moment, I think it might be Xhaka.
Yeah, I think that's right. Dumb Pidge is dragging a Discord debate into the live stream to say, do you now believe Partey could start for Arsenal? El Neni has been decent recently, to be fair. It's a joke because I made the point that if we get Partey would even start, because Xhaka never gets rested, and Ceballos is someone that we just brought back from loan, but Xhaka now does get benched, which is an interesting development. And then rested. Clive says it's a double pivot and he's the right center mid. Yeah, I mean, by the way, you're the big believer in people being outraged that new signings aren't integrated immediately. Do you expect him to be integrated immediately?
Yeah.
Because he's going away, I think, on international break.
Yeah,
he's going away with his country.
Whether he plays City away, I mean, maybe not. But very soon after that, you pay that kind of money for someone and you go that hard for them, and you kind of pay money that you maybe haven't even got. It's because you want to play them. Simple as that.
I would say, by the way, Ken Williams playing midfield instead of the front three. I'd prefer it because I don't think he should be starting on the right. I think we've seen he doesn't have the burst to get past people. I mean, what's your best case scenario for Willian right now?
I still like him on that. I think, look, there are going to be games for Willian, and we saw that with Fulham. And I know Fulham are really, really bad, but I really think that type of game does suit him. I don't think we've seen the full range of Willian just yet. He will be a useful player. I don't want him to start absolutely every single week on the right, but I think he will be a useful player. As for whether he could play in the midfield three, possibly. But if you have like him on the left, say, and Saka as the left central midfielder, there's room for interchange there and rotation of positions.
Tomas, thank you, Tomas. Just wants to make sure that we know Man United used the whole weekend to sign Cavani, which I don't see how that strengthens.
So here's the thing about,
they've just signed a teenager for 40 million or something who won't even join till January.
Here's the thing about Cavani, right? My Brazilian team, Atletico Mineiro, currently top of the league, it must be said, they were going for Cavani.
Oh, good. Well,
they went quite hard for Cavani. They just couldn't afford the wages. So
yeah, well, Man United are always happy to sploosh wages on a very expensive, very old player. And I mean, look, he might still have it in him, but like that wasn't their area of need. Not that I'm an expert on that. I think this is an interesting question. Oli Hain asks, we discussed this earlier on the live stream because 3.5 hours in, we've discussed literally everything on the live stream. Does Ozil get left out of the 25? We are 2 players, I think, over. I think it's 2, maybe even more, maybe 3 over on non-homegrowns. So some players, we have to register our squad tomorrow. Some players just aren't going to be named. Pick the players you don't think will be named. Pick 2. Is it Socrates and Ozil?
It could be. Yeah, let me just. I'm just like quickly running through the squad numbers in my head. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ozil was omitted. Everything points to the fact that he's just not involved, and that's kind of the end of it. I guess that decision comes down to: is there any prospects of him? Is it just a case of look, just train properly for a week and you'll see the squad again, or is it completely terminal? And I guess we'll find that out tomorrow when they name the squad, because if he's in it, then that means the door is a little bit open. If he's not, then it's not. If you want me to make a prediction, I think he'll be left out. I think if you're not in Carabao Cup squads, you're not even talked about. I think something's gone on there that's just irreparable.
It's it's such a crazy situation. The fact that we've normalized to the idea that the guy we pay the most money, like an insane amount of money, is not going to be registered in our match day squad. Like it's not great. It's not great.
No,
but,
I guess
at least today, this is a good point. Ends the Ozil conversation, which would be a relief. And I could not agree more with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe there's scope, because I think they can redo the squad in January. So maybe there's scope to just leave out injured players. Like, I don't know when Mari's back. Martinelli isn't going to be back. They could just leave him out and resolve that he's not going to be back before January.
He's underage, isn't he? So it doesn't matter. Right? He's
fair point. But I guess what you'd say with the Ozil thing is, if Arsenal are making a bit of a statement here, just in case they make a similar mistake again and they overpay someone they really don't want to play in the future, if they're in that situation, they can say, look, we left Ozil out completely and that will happen to you, and then you can make a decision whether that you care about that or not, but we're not bluffing, basically. So, maybe there's some value in that there.
Clive Palmer, who was on the live stream and is in the chat trying to still be part of the live stream. This is Tim's moment. Asked, did anyone see the training videos of Ozil? Did you?
Yeah, Guendouzi threw ball to Ozil to score. If there was ever, I don't know how familiar with the phrase you'd be from a British game show. Here's what you could have won.
I do want to bring this up, and I don't want to even talk about it because I don't want to go down this path, because this way only leads misery. I do realize that that Ozil brought a lot of fans into the club. That he brought a lot of fans into the club. in much the same way any players can. I mean, I think it was Kanu who brought a new segment of fans into the club and have stuck with the club ever since. And this happens, and it is totally understandable. You know, people are always like, "Oh, you're more an Ozil fan than an Arsenal fan." That's how it starts. Often, often there's a player you like, and it brings you to the club, and it takes time for that to transfer. And so I don't want to dismiss this as just people being plastic or not caring about the club. I am aware this exists.
Yeah, and it's not just international fans either. I mean, well, maybe Andrew is an international fan, but, you know, Andrew's on record as saying that one of the reasons he supports Arsenal is because they had so many Irish players when he was a kid.
You're talking about Arseblog, Andrew.
Yes,
He was also on this live.
Yes, yeah. So, like, you know, we got a lot of Irish fans in the 70s because we had a lot of Irish players. Where I went to school in Lewisham, southeast London. You know, very, very big black community here. All like the black kids at my school supported Arsenal because at that time Arsenal were like the only real London team who had like all of these black guys from Lewisham in the team, and that created like a real bond for people. So it's not and again, I don't mean to say that dismissively, or it's not just international fans, but you know what I mean, that you're right, like that relation, it's the players that draw you in. I support Arsenal because of the players they had at the time that I was making the decision. So of course, like, people are emotionally attached to players, and that's, you know, that's completely fine. And yes, Ozil did bring a lot of fans in. Henry brought a lot of fans in. Bergkamp brought a lot of fans in. I guess, look, the thing is with Ozil, but I'd say in response directly to that question, is I don't think we can be angry with the club about it because we don't know what's happened, and it's that simple. I don't really have a strong opinion on it because I don't know what's happened. He must have done something, but I don't know what it is. So I've just got to kind of go with the flow with it.
I just want to focus on this because this is something that I think deserves attention. Which is
the Cedric comment, or the one about you looking great?
My face is sliding off. Like, I feel the grease. I feel my face sliding off. I definitely think we should start wrapping this up. I don't know. I mean, this is an interesting one. I asked this to Andrew, and I do think this is fascinating. Will we need to remodel our entire midfield next summer? We got a few seasons of Partey now. Xhaka, his time's got to be coming to a close. Elneny's not the way forward. Guendouzi does not look like he has a future at Arsenal. I don't think Willock is trusted to be in midfield long-term. He'd be playing more, I think, if he was more a factor there. Maitland-Niles doesn't play there, even if some people think you should. Elliot looks damn good for 64. You're damn right I do. So what happens with our midfield, Tim? Like, there's a big midfield rebuild. The irony, I think part of the reason I was excited about Aouar, not to go back to that, is like, that's a future. Like, you could just say, okay, that's done. Several years, don't worry about it. With the Partey thing, like, okay, he's still got a few seasons. I'm not saying he's going to keel over and die tomorrow, but like, there's a midfield rebuild that has to happen. So come next summer, do you think it's again the summer of the midfield? Once again, we're going to be talking who's the Partey partner, who's the number 10. I mean, you got Willian at 30, you know, whatever, and you've got Partey. Fine, he's here for a while, but is midfield going to be taking center stage for us for a little while longer as we try to rebuild the center of the park?
Yeah, I think it always was. Because look, the future of the midfield was supposed to be Torreira and Guendouzi, and they've both gone out on loan. And Ceballos is on loan, so we may or may not have him after that. But for me, for the last, I don't know, year or so, or at least 6 months, it's been obvious that this midfield is more than a one transfer window project, because let's face it, our midfield's not good enough. So I'm quite happy. Like, I don't think we're destroying anything, or, you know, it's not like Liverpool's front line where they're going, oh, they're all 28, 29 now, which, you know, again, doesn't mean they're dead yet, but they're getting old together. What do we do about that? Because they're so good, and how do we future-proof that? That's a problem. Looking at your midfield and going, these guys got us 8th, and we've got to like take it apart. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares, quite frankly? Yes, I'm perfectly fine with demolishing our midfield that has Mohamed Elneny as a starter. Sorry, I feel like we're really picking on him recently. But yeah, absolutely. In the words of the esteemed Clive Palmer, blow it up, please.
Well, so I would say this is the issue now. What's the way forward for us at center attacking mid?
A signing.
Do you think that there is a world where Bukayo Saka is not a left winger? He's that float around between the lines, attack from various angles, attacking 8. I don't see it. I think he's Raheem Sterling, and we're making a huge mistake if we don't just let him be Raheem Sterling. But do you see it differently?
I'm comfortable with either, but even if he becomes that number 8, you've still got to have more than one in your squad. It wasn't enough when we just had Ozil. It wasn't enough when we just had Fabregas. Every really good team has several creators. At least
Sam
2
Dallas says,
players.
isn't the era of a traditional center attacking mid over? Yes. I mean, yes, it is, right?
Yeah. So like, we're not signing, hopefully not like Coutinho or anyone like that. But like that's going to be a signing. Like, I think Saka can do some of that. I'm relaxed about whether he's a left centre mid or a left winger. Personally, I wherever the greatest need is in the next couple of years, that's fine. And in the meantime, he's 19. He can play both. Fine, all good for his development. He's playing in the same area anyway. But we still need someone else. It doesn't have to be like a number 10, but yeah, we need more creative juice in that midfield. Definitely, that's going to be a signing at some point.
Yeah, I agree. Well, look, I think overall it is Partey time. We did get Thomas Partey over the line. I think it's exciting to get a big player in. I'm on record all the reasons why I worry, but I'm a worrier. That's why my friends call me Whiskers. The fact is, if you set aside the squad building and the analytics and money, and you just say I'm a fan and I want to watch Arsenal play, I'm more excited to watch Arsenal play after the international break than I was yesterday, because this is an exciting move. I don't think anything else is going to happen. And overall, I can live with that. I think both Aouar and Partey would have been 10 out of 10 home run. Who knows how far we can go? I think without that piece in between the lines, maybe it's still a little underbaked in terms of creating chances, shots, and threat. But I'm happy with it. And I think I'm more happy. It's funny, Tim. 2 things going hand in hand: getting the signing over the line, and then the appearance of that back 4, midfield 3 against Sheffield United when the football had been dreadful, and Arteta goes, "All right, Oba, you're up front. Pepe, you're on the right. Saka, you're on the left. Willian, you're between the lines. Ceballos and El Neni, that's now going to be Ceballos and Partey." Seeing that and seeing this and putting the 2 together, I'm able to get to a place where I see a way for us to make more than just incremental improvement. It's part tactics, part acquisition. Do you think it's fair to let yourself get a little bit excited about this, or is it a little too Pollyannish for you?
No, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And look, I don't know enough about Partey to say we've definitely signed a brilliant player. I hope so. And there are plenty of people who think that. I'm happy to see, I'm really happy to see how that plays out. But look, ultimately, we weren't going to solve all of the problems of this squad in one transfer window. Even if we'd have got rid of everyone we wanted to get rid of, like, we're talking about becoming a top 4 team, title challenging team. That's going to take several windows. And that's why I was slightly sanguine about the Aouar thing. I was kind of thinking, well, okay, I'd have liked to have had that player now, but the club have shown they know they need that player, and that makes me think they'll revisit it. And if that's in January or next summer, then great. So, let's get Partey now. I'm certain that at the very least by next summer, there will be another midfielder. Like, this is going to be like a process, right? And we're at the beginning of it. And we've still got quite a lot of work done. However you rate the work, a lot has been done this summer in terms of contracts, incomings. We haven't got the outgoings we wanted. Some of those players have only got a year left on their deals anyway. So, look, we might have to eat Socrates and Mustafi's wages for another year. They're gone next summer, no matter what. Ozil is gone next summer. Luiz is gone next summer. A lot of the wage bill is going next summer. And that makes me think that, maybe then we'll be able to pony up for Aouar or whoever else, whatever else the target will be at that point. So I'm fairly relaxed about that.
Yeah, look, there is a tendency, I think, to overstate the extent to which you feel a certain way about a big news story. So if you're on the opposite side of it, you're on the contrarian side, there's a tendency to want to be like, no, it's a bad move, and here's why it's a bad move. And if you're on the positive, happy side, you want to kind of undermine anyone that has a reservation. I am happy with some reservations about long-term thought process, but I'm overall happy. And I hope that we can kick on. It's a great start to the season. Mikel Arteta is really encouraging. There are things that I think we could have done to make this a 10 out of 10, but we're not Manchester United. We're not sitting here losing our rag over it like, they are on their side right now. And that's great to see. I think we should leave it there. What I would say is I want to thank everyone. I mean, Tim, obviously, I want to thank you for being on. I'll let you go. Tim's on Twitter, Stillberto. Thanks, bud.
My pleasure as always.
All right, talk to you, I imagine, quite soon.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, bye, buddy. So that's gonna do it. And just real quick before we say goodbye, I do want to say thanks for spending the time together. And I realize that things could still happen, but it's 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 43 minutes of doing this, and I think I'm losing my propulsion a little bit here. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us on the podcast. Thank you for being with us on Twitter and in the chat and on Discord and on Patreon. If you want to sign up for our Patreon, we're going to do a scouting video of Thomas Partey. And what we do is we have access to special scouting videos of him. We stream that video with Clive giving his analysis of it while I ask stupid questions along with him. So if you sign up for Patreon, it's $5 a month, and you can quit anytime, and you have access to the whole back catalog. You can cry over the Aouar one, or you can watch the Partey one this week. But we would love to have you there. And more than anything, just the comments, the chat, the Twitter, the comments on YouTube. It's all awesome. You guys are great. And the conversation that we have about this club, civilized, friendly, funny, supportive. It's wonderful. And I appreciate you putting up with me and loving the group. And certainly it's a two-way street. So I'm going to let it go there before I run out of steam and run out of things to say and my face falls off and my headphones crush my head. But if there's any late breaking news, we'll come back on and do a 5-minute bonus stream, and we'll have a full podcast tomorrow. So we love you. Hang in there with us. Join us on Patreon. Listen to us on the pod. Follow us on Twitter. Do whatever you got to do. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a drink. I'll raise a glass to you later. We love you, and we'll talk to you after Arsenal 10. Transfer